Hey, what's up? Say hi, Dennis.
Good morning.
That's Dennis Martin. Dennis is a music producer and a good friend of mine. He's from Brooklyn. He's here from the NAMM show.
It was wonderful.
Did you wake up yet?
No.
I'm tired too. Man, it was a great weekend, but tiring and busy. A lot of people at that show.
It was busy, but it was pretty great. I think there was I've seen a lot of cool people and
yeah,
a lot of great new gear being announced.
Yeah.
At a ferocious pace.
At a ferocious pace. Yeah, no, we had a lot of fun down there. Our friend Holly Henderson, who I produced a record for, and you're now doing some managerial kind of things and promotion and all kinds of things for. She performed at Boston. She was great. I think
she did a great job. She got kind of thrown into it last minute and just
had to come up with something. Right?
Yeah, and they just sent her a whole bunch of pedals and said, here, why don't you use some of the stuff to play, at this show? And she just had one day to pretty much open the box and see what was inside and take everything out of the box and try to make a live show out of it. And but she did it, and it was really cool.
It was pretty cool. She's a singer-songwriter and just went up there with a telly and like a little Boss Next Tone amp, and had a looper and
she had a guitar synth that SY guitar synth and
right.
A vocal harmony
She's great.
Yeah, so she was able to kind of trigger the play the chords, and it would sense the pitches and be able to trigger harmonies that way. And she just fell in love with it because she does a lot of harmony stacking.
So it follows her when she plays a chord on the guitar. It follows it's sensing the chord of the guitar, and then it hears the note you're singing, and it builds a harmony based on that chord.
Exactly.
So it can sense major or minor.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so we had fun. Dennis, folks, is the reason that I go to Japan. He actually is Tsuyoshi Nagabuchi's music producer, who's the artist that I play with. So believe it or not, this kid from Brooklyn right here speaks fluent Japanese.
So you're getting pretty good yourself, actually.
But he's a great music producer, and we have a lot of fun working over in Japan with Tsuyoshi.
Yeah, so we've done a whole bunch of tours now.
Yeah,
including the epic 9-hour all night live.
Yeah, we've been in the trenches together. We've been in a helicopter and flown into it.
And we've been and then been in hot tubs and onsen and in the south of Japan and
exactly.
All across the country. It's been pretty cool.
It's quite an adventure, all the way from the south to the north. The snow of Sapporo to
the volcanoes of Kagoshima.
Yeah, with our buddy Tsuyoshi.
Yeah,
who's awesome. You've worked with him for 15 years or something.
Yeah, it's just been great seeing the the progression and stuff, and just bringing the American guys over into the band, and just how that process of because if anyone's ever worked with Japanese artists and stuff, it's it's its own unique thing.
Yeah,
kind of being over there, and they've got a process that the way that they work, and it's very different from how we work over here. They're very meticulous. They rehearse hard and long. It's like
12-hour days sometimes.
12-hour days, yeah. And like a 6-hour rehearsal would be like a short day. We'd all go home like, oh my god, we got a half day or something.
Right.
But then to integrate American musicians with our work ethic, just, to massage that in and make it work. It's not easy, but when it does happen, it's a real cool thing. And
it's super cool.
Yeah, and it only takes certain kinds of guys who can really go over there and do that, and not and be willing to you have to give yourself kind of give yourself into it, right?
You can't fight it or think that it's going to be anything like working in America. You have to just allow yourself to become part of the Japanese, which is part of the most fun part about it for me, is becoming part of that experience. You're working for a Japanese company essentially at that point. So you're in a foreign country working. You got you're a foreign employee that's being kind of welcomed into and you sink or swim, becoming a part of that kind of the workforce essentially. And it's very kind of team oriented. It's all about the team, and they expect you to work very hard, I think, but Tsuyoshi always really appreciates when everybody works. I remember the one meeting we had where there was 75 people in the room, everybody on the crew, everybody from the carpenters that build the stage to the musicians to the techs, everybody. And he said to the carpenter guys, he said, I got to get up there and perform, but I can't do what you guys do. You guys are a very important part of this team, right? Building the stage.
It's always great when the featured artist kind of understands that, sees the bigger picture, and really knows what it takes for everybody to put on a big 30,000 person rock concert like that, and has a sense of it. But on the flip side, they expect you to be a super pro and work your ass off, and as long as you're willing to kind of give yourself to that, you can have a lot of success that way, and because people immediately sense that it's like, well, this person he's giving me his all, so I'm going to give it back to him by hiring him again.
In a paycheck,
right?
But also, we have a great time over there. It's fun. That's the main thing. It's been really fun. Well, let's take some questions and comments here. Let's see here. Of course, we brought out the amp this week. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. PT15. I don't have one here now because I had to give it back to go to the show. So a lot of people might have been wondering where Suhr was this year at NAMM. They had a dealer room. So that's for various reasons. But sometimes it doesn't make sense to actually display at the show, because number one thing is it's incredibly expensive to have a booth. And if it doesn't sort of behoove you from a business angle, sometimes people will skip the show altogether. Like, Mesa does that often. Gibson's done it, although they were there in force this year. Or sometimes they'll have a dealer only area, and it's kind of private, and you have to know where to go and stuff. And then just the dealers get to go up and stuff. So that was their situation this year. But the amp was there, and of course the dealers got to see it. It doesn't help other folks that wanted to go. I
heard it. It was pretty mind blowing.
Yeah, it's pretty ripping amp.
Yeah,
it's great. So if you guys want to know anything about it, I'm happy to answer questions and stuff. That's where my Chris Cam is saying small booth for dealers. I wonder if you're talking about Suhr. I think so. But what else we got? Did you guys see the Charvel throwback collection? I did see it, like the star that was there, and they had a green bass and a pink bass and stuff. They're cool. I mean, I love that stuff. I love the old, original pre-pro Charvel. Like I mentioned, I'm even getting a guitar made right now with an exact digitized neck of my old Jackson, my old 80s Charvel Jackson neck. So I'm excited about that. I'm just gonna skip around the chat a bit here. Dan says, congrats on the PT15 IR. You completely nailed it. Thank you, sir. I've wanted a PT100 for ages, but it was just too big. Always playing. I'm always playing silent stages. It's perfect for you then. When's it out in the UK? Well, so they've said summer, which we went back and forth about, because I was like, why we got to say summer? Because I think it'll be sooner. But that's that gives them the enough time to, at the very latest, if it's June or something like that, then it's okay. We were honest about the time, then people aren't disappointed waiting for it. I think it's going to be hopefully sooner, but I think the first one should be being built in April. So certainly like April, May, June is when it's gonna. The thing with building amps, I've been learning so much about this, and John and the team there, they know so much about it. But there's so many parts involved, and so you got to think about. You can't get hung up by this one little part that you got to order, but there's a 6-week wait for that one thing. You got everything else, but you can't move forward because you got this one thing. So they schedule all that stuff out as they're doing the build. And the amp was only just finished. Really about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, to where we had the working one that's like, yep, this is it. Had a couple little things we were trying to, like little ground noise and things like that. You're trying to track down and figure out, John will be like, I got to move this one wire here, do things, and all those little issues. And then once it's like, yes, this is quiet, it sounds smoking, it's got all the right features and everything, then you can go, okay, now we know the parts that we got to order and start to do that stuff. And then it's just a lead time thing. That's all it is. So what's for breakfast?
You were playing the guitar when the distributors came in, and you were playing the guitar, and they put the headphones on, and you were playing. You couldn't even hear what you were playing. You were just playing,
right?
And their
right,
eyes just lit up. It was like a light bulb moment, I think, for them.
Well, because it sounds so good through the phones, which I didn't even think it was gonna. So the headphone amp in the PT 15 was Kevin's idea, really. He's like, I can put a headphone amp in it, and what if I put an aux in jack? And we went so you could plug in a computer or a you know, even your iPhone or something,
jam along
to tracks. And I was like, is that a good feature? And then I thought about it. It's a great feature. It totally makes sense, because now you can take the head and go to a hotel room or backstage or whatever to practice, put on the phones, and just sit there and jam out.
I mean, if you got kids and you want to, you know, jam in your apartment late at night,
yeah,
you know, and just shred with tubes cranked, I mean,
it's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and when you hear how good it sounds on it's a great sounding headphone amp, and then you can just do this, you know, stereo little 1/8 inch in for your phone or whatever, and jam along to stuff. As soon as I heard it, I was like, this is great. I mean, it's just never been done. Like, I don't think anybody's ever in a tube amp.
It was just, I just remember I was just watching you do it, watching you kind of demo it for one of the distributors there, and they were listening to it at the cab. You had the matching cabinet there, which was really cool, sounded great.
Right.
But it's when they put the headphones on and they were like, it was basically the same,
right,
the same sound, and just like it was.
Yeah,
I think that's when people really get it. Like, you
know, when you try and into the one thing they didn't bring to NAMM, which I wish they had, was a studio monitor, because we tested it at the shop, even into John's Bose speakers in his office. It sounds great, but we tested it with a Dyne Audio studio monitor, just a little, you know, 5-inch driver studio monitor, and just the cable coming right out of the amp, right jacked into the, like, no console, no computer necessary, just right into that little full range monitor, plug the amp right into it. And everybody in the shop was coming through that day, and I was going, just pick up the guitar and play it like this. And everybody was going like, dude, that's amazing, because you can just turn the knobs wherever you want, get the level just to I mean, it's really the balance with the great power amp in the thing. It's a 6v6 power amp that sounds super sweet, and you can just crank it right into this great zone where it's starting to get 6v6s have this broad kind of brawny kind of distortion that's cool. I just think about Cinnamon Girl or Neil Young or whatever. It's kind of almost EL34 like, which is, you know, Marshall style tube. When it distorts, but when it's clean, it does the Fender thing. I mean, there's been some great amps like FTR 37 from Divided by 13 that I've had for years, which has 4 6v6s. My Kelly, which is right over here, has 4 6v6s. And one thing about the Kelly and the FTR is that they sound great all the way across the volume dial. Like, you can get, so it's one of the only tubes that I've found that I like EL34s, especially for the Marshall kind of dirt stuff, but actually, I think, like, in many ways, I love my PT100, but I'm digging, maybe it's just honeymoon period, but I think I'm digging the clean and the new amp more. There's just so much chime and good stuff, you know, that going on with the 6v6s that, you know, when you think Fender Princeton, there's so many great amps that use 6Vs. There's somebody up in the top chat. It's Robert. Hi, Robert. I'm going to answer his question. He says, how does the PT15 IR 2-button foot switch work with 3 channels and 16 IRs? So the 2-button foot switch is a standard TRS style cable, and button 1 on the left goes from the clean channel to the dirty side, channel 2 and 3. So and then the button on the right side of the foot switch will take you between 2 and 3. So you can preset whether you want to be on kind of the lead channel, channel 3, or whether you want to be on the dirt rhythm channel, channel 2. So hope that makes sense. Left button toggles between channel 1 and the dirt channels. The button on the right channel toggles between the 2 dirt channels. I'm burping, excuse me. What else did you ask about the IRs? So the IRs you can simply preset per channel. So you can have 3 selections, basically. You clean, channel 2, channel 3. And essentially you just pick an IR that you like and you want to assign to a channel. And you just hold this button down for like 2 seconds, and then the lights blink and it's stored. And then the next time you go to whichever channel you did that on, that one will pop up. If you don't store an IR state per channel, it's just going to stay on one static IR when you change channels. So that's how it works. Then you've basically got 2 buttons, one for bank and one for IR per bank. So in other words, there's 4 banks, and there's 4 in each bank. So if you want to get to, you know, bank 3, IR number 2, you just hit the bank switch 3 times, IR switch 2 times, and then it takes you right there. It's very simple. It's just little push buttons that take you through the IRs. And then if you've got favorite ones, you can just store them per channel. It's super cool.
What could be more cool than taking your tube amp and plugging it into your computer and having it come up as a folder in your computer?
Yeah, it's just a USB cable.
Yeah, it's
you know,
cool.
So you can load your own. It looks like it shows up. It's flash memory, right?
Right.
So it shows up like flash drive on the and you can just pull in your own IRs, get rid of it. If you want to take all the ones out that it comes with and put your own in, you can do that. Just store them in another folder for later if you like, you know, or ditch them if you want. Do whatever you want with them. But the ones that it comes with are going to be like, we sent all the cabinets from Suhr over to England, and they did a whole, they're available now on the Celestion site, actually all the Suhr IRs. So there's like 412s with greenbacks and 412s with V30s and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we stopped by the Celestion booth, and the guy was excited. He said that they had a great time making the IRs for that.
Yeah, John from Celestion.
Yeah, he was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a great company. They do a great job on the IRs. So it's going to come with a selection of those, but also I'm going to do some custom blends. So I'll do mic mix blends of those Suhr Celestion cabinets, and I've been experimenting with it. And I did some, and I put it in the amp, and then I ended up liking actually still the ones that the high gain all Celestion blends I really like on the greenback 412 especially. So I ended up going, I still think I prefer theirs. So I need to experiment with doing my own blends and make sure they're at least as good or better than the ones that they're making before I put them in the amp. But it'll come with a selection, selection of Celestion IRs. Some of them will be blends that I've made. Pretty straightforward though. Anything else you want to know about the amp? Let me know. See, Banjard wants. He's in the Netherlands. What's up, man? He wants to know what other NAMM gear appealed the most to you. Well, my amp for sure, but no, beyond that, there's a great volume pedal at Ernie Ball. I don't know if anybody saw that. I think John Mayer posted a picture of it the other day. It's got a digital display on it for where the volume pedal's at. So from 10 to 1, it's just a readout in the pedal. So if you want to kind of like, if you're like, oh, I like to roll the pedal back for a clean sound or whatever to 6 and then roll it up, you can actually physically see on the pedal a display of where you're at, which is pretty neat. And when it goes to 0, the super cool thing is a tuner comes on, and it's bright and just this awesome, so I love that. I mean, that's things like that like resonate with me. I don't know. People probably want to hear about like
things that make sound, right?
Things that make sound, but you know how it is at gigs. It's like,
oh man, that stuff's essential.
This stuff's just it's like, oh, I've never thought that's a great.
If you're doing it like a TV performance or something, you've got to do like 2 songs, and that's where the sweet spot has got to be. I mean, I can see that being just the absolute perfect thing.
Acoustic guitar player that's like, oh, I want to be here, and then I play a little solo or whatever. You can see it visually, like where it's at.
Yeah.
And it's got a buffer in it as well, which is always, sometimes the thing with any ball pedals, they're not buffered. I recommend using a buffer with them because any kind of passive volume pedal will suck your tone if you don't have a buffer. But this one's got a buffer built in, so it's really cool. What's for breakfast? I had yogurt. Let's see. Pete, man, you gotta get more Brian Ray on here. He's awesome, says David M. Yeah, Brian so Brian's good friends with Dennis, and that's kind of how we met. Was through Brian Ray.
Exactly. And I'm gonna leave here in about 2 minutes and go have brunch with him. But
yeah, cool.
So, he's we were just talking about the tour back in 13, 14, and I said I'm looking for a real versatile guitarist who's got, who's a team player and can, really work in the kind of situation that we had. And he just was a no-brainer. He just said, call Pete.
He's my employee. I owe him 15% of everything.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I think so.
I think he might be expecting me to bring him a check, so you should just sign that over.
No, he's been a great friend.
He had a new guitar come out that I thought was pretty cool. Yeah, he's got like an SG Junior that came out, and he demoed that yesterday, and it's got
a Gibson.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's got like a passive noise reduction in it,
which is super. So it's got a P90 with some sort of hum canceling coil. That. Right, and you can switch it in and out.
Yeah, so he demoed it, and he just like he was Gibson had a big booth with a big stage and lights. It was almost kind of like what you would see at a gig, and
right,
when he had it off, you heard some of the hum coming through the guitar. Moving around, you find that this is the spot.
Right, the single coil.
And then it's just like it's on the volume pot. I think I'm not exactly sure, but it's like a double push or something. And then he kicked it in, and noise was gone.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
It was just gone, and it's in a situation like a big concert, like we've done stuff at the Budokan in Tokyo, where it's just like something about that room is like there's just buzzes coming from everywhere, like every angle.
Totally.
And if you had a guitar like that, when you're able to just tap it out, and you really wouldn't even notice any loss in sound. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a kind of a see-through white sort of finish too. See-through.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it close up. Brian Ray's a big rock star, and there's a lot of people there, but it did look great on stage, just the way the lights were hitting off. And it had some, what was that? The plate that it had on it.
Yeah, it's got the ebony plate, which is like a thing that Gibson did on like right below the bridge. It's got a vibrola tailpiece too, like I think, or something. Doesn't it have a tremolo or Bigsby?
Yeah,
it's got a Bigsby. Can't remember.
Yeah,
but
I posted a photo of it on my Twitter. But it's it was cool, and I think it's a no-brainer for anyone who like plays in big venues with hum problems and wants to use those P90 pickups. Like, it's like. I want one. Yeah, as a producer and being the guy who like runs from front of the stage to the back of the stage and dealing with the sound man, like, and just having all those issues sometimes and there's some situations where you just kind of can't have it buzzing like that.
Right.
It's not appropriate. Like a big, you're rocking out and the band's loud. It
doesn't matter. Yeah,
it's totally fine. But there's some situations where
with McCartney, I think that's why he's been, because I know on his Brian, but for those that don't know Brian Ray, he plays with Paul McCartney and he plays guitar and he plays bass when Paul's playing guitar. Yeah, plays guitar when Paul's playing bass, and switches off. But in that situation, I know he was having trouble because he wanted to play juniors. And what's he got? Like, I can't remember the exact guitar. Oh, his Les Paul Jr. it's a TV yellow Les Paul Jr. that he had, and he was having these issues, and he was contacting Suhr and asking him, and as well as like, what can I do about this buzz? Because he didn't want to go to a P100 is like Gibson stacked P90 style pickup, but they just don't sound the same. Stacks never sound the same. So I think he ended up getting the Illich backplate, which is similar to backplate with a coil, and it does but now I think that maybe Gibson's designed their own system for his.
Yeah, I think they probably posted a video of it. He talked all about it and gave all the features. He was saying it was like a passive induction coil,
right
up, right above the.
Yeah. It's essentially like a humbucker pickup, but it's the hum canceling coil isn't part of the pickup. Yeah,
there's no batteries, nothing, so it's just amazing.
Yeah, worked good. So it's cool.
So with that, I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna go have lunch with him and tell him that we just plugged his guitar to all your beautiful fans, and I'll see you later. Yeah,
hit you up later. We might go see a gig later. I'm not sure,
man.
But
great seeing you all.
Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
And you move on in the chat.
And what a beautiful studio you got here.
Oh, thanks. Right, thank you. Yeah, you've seen the last one, so this one's more space. All right, let's see here. Who else we got in here? I'm drinking. Look at my giant cup of coffee. It's great. Super stoked. REP PT regarding the PT15 says J Z U K E R Zucker. One could bypass internal load and use an aux. See you, Dennis. Take it easy. One could bypass internal load and use an aux. Yeah, you can totally do that. So the deal is, there's a couple really cool things about it. Actually, when you plug in the speaker cabinet, it disables the load, just like on a Suhr reactive load. But there's two speaker jacks on the back of the PT15. So this is a cool thing that not a lot of people, maybe nobody knows about it yet. But if you plug into the second speaker jack, the load stays connected, and now you got a load in parallel. You just have to half the impedance if you do that. So you got an 8 ohm cab. If you plug into that second jack, you want to put the impedance on the amp on 4 ohms. Okay, and what happens then is the load is in parallel with the connected speaker cabinet, and you're going to get essentially a 7-watt amp. It's going to suck half the power of the amp and do it very transparently. So if you want to use a cab and just have 7 watts but full 3 channels, you can do that. So it's essentially a dual. It's like a half power feature. So that's super cool. Now, if you want to use an aux with it and not use the IRs, you can easily do that. But one thing about you don't even actually, I think the aux has a line in on it. You don't need to use the load on the aux if you don't want to, because you can just disable the IRs on the amp. There's simply a push button on the back of the amplifier for IR or no IR. So you'll just get the direct line out in your computer. And we put that on there, of course, if you want to use the aux, or if you want to use IRs in your computer, you want to maybe record a song, but use something like Mix IR2 and IR Loader in the computer, then you want to have the option to switch later on to a different cab sound. You can easily do that. So it's super simple. IRs, no IRs. You want to use the load, you don't want to use the load. You can do all that stuff, and you can use the load in parallel with a cabinet connected to half the power of the amp. It'll drop like 3 dB off the level of the amp, and it's kind of cool. It's like having a built-in little attenuator, really, with one setting. What are my thoughts on this is a great question. What are my thoughts on the Acoustasonic Telly? That's from Mark. I did play one. I think it's cool. It's essentially like an acoustic telly that also has an electric pickup built in, so it can kind of double as an electric guitar, I think. But the sounds, the acoustic sounds in the guitar, there's some modeling going on. So they got different style, like dreadnoughts and orchestra models and different types of acoustic guitar sounds in there. So there's some modeling going on with acoustic sound. It sounded great. I picked one up. It feels like a Telecaster with a nice kind of chunky neck on it. And you can put electric strings on it or put acoustic strings on it. It's kind of a new kind of guitar. It's cool. I mean, I guess there's been guitars sort of like that in the past that are similar, but I liked it a lot, actually. I played it a little bit and heard a guy do a nice demo of it, and it sounded good. I'll be putting out a NAMM kind of wrap-up video, and that was one of the things I made a little video of, and I was recording the guy just with my, my camera, but my Canon camera, so not super high quality, but I got some video of somebody playing it, and you'll hear that. So that's Todd Smith up in the chat also just asking, can your new amp use its load without the IR being on so you could use it into another larger power amp? Yeah, you could totally do that. You could just turn off yes, you can just come right out of the 1/4 inch output into a effects if you want to split into a big power amp and use it that way. If you want, use it as a slave out with no IR, no problem. I'm going to sneeze, sorry. There it is. I don't have anthrax. I had a cold like a week and a half ago, and I'm still just like sneezing, and I think I got allergies or something actually right now. Anyway, Todd Smith up in the top chat. Thank you for doing that, Todd. I appreciate that. And he says, stay positive, and thanks for all you do. I always will. I promise. Would your amp work for bass as a headphone amp? It probably sound great, like with the clean channel. There's like lots of headroom there, and should sound pretty cool. Somebody's mentioning Andy Timmons' performance the other day, and it was, you're mentioning Andy Timmons' performance of Bohemian Rhapsody and saying it was incredible. That's G-Man Music Productions. So went to the show the other night, Neely and Andy Timmons, Andy Woods, Paul Gilbert, lots of great guitar players. And that was really actually a standout moment for me. Was his Andy has such a deep Andy Timmons has this deep appreciation of the Beatles and like Queen and like really great music. And I think he did a full version of Sgt. Pepper's where he covered the whole record, just instrumental guitar. And he does these amazing versions of songs. And so he played Bohemian Rhapsody as a trio the other night with all the parts on guitar, and it was killer. It was just so killer. It was great. That was actually I think my favorite thing of the whole night. Really great. Somebody else is up in the top chat. It's Tim Corder. Recently installed a set of Thornbuckers and love them. Thanks for the advice on the Thornbucker Plus a few PT lives ago. I'm glad you're happy, man. That's awesome. Glad you're happy with it. Excellent. Thanks for getting it as well. I really appreciate that. I had a lot of folks come up to me at the show and say, hey, I've got your amp or I've got your guitar and I love it. And it means a lot to me. It's like, and John, I'm really happy that folks like, just trying to make good tools, really. Let's see. Leon is in the chat. Leon Barron, he says, how does the PT-15 compare volume-wise to the Hedgehog with everything at 1 o'clock? It's hard for me to say. I'd have to plug it. To be honest, the majority of my use of the Hedgehog has been in here into loads. So it's like I have to plug it into a cab and actually listen to it and see what the volume's like. But the Hedgehog is a pretty clean. It's got some headroom and it's 50 watts. It's definitely going to be louder, But the 15 is surprisingly. I mean, John says it's got more headroom than the Badger, which is cathode bias. Even the Badger 35 at 35 watts, he thinks that the 15 seems louder on the clean channel. I don't know. I'd have to side by side myself and listen, but it's it's a conservatively rated. I think it's actually 16 watts, to be honest, fully clean power. So we could have called it the PT16, but I think that folks would be surprised on channel 1 how much headroom there is on the amp. Like, I'm fully considering gigging myself with it and just kind of going for it and get it. I'll bring 2 and 2 cabs if I'm going to Japan or something like that for tour. But I think that it's you know, a surprising amount of headroom for an amp of its power. Let's see. Yeah, sorry, Leon. I think you were asking that question a few times and I just got to it. What else have we got here? Just moving down a little bit in the chat. Sorry if I missed any too, guys. While I was talking with Dennis and stuff like that, I might have missed some questions. If it's just maybe just type again if you don't mind. Do you mostly use the gain from your amp? Any times when you go with fully clean amp and distortion pedal? What would you say are the pros and cons? So the way I do things is I use mainly for the Marshall kind of crunchy tones. It's my amp always. It's a PT amp distortion that I'm using. For augmented kind of semi-broken up sounds or sometimes lighter distortion sounds, I use a few different pedals. So I'll use a Jan Ray a lot. I always say kind of tweedy sounds, what I think of the Stonesy kind of rhythm sounds or kind of full mid, edge of breakup sounds. I like the Jan Ray a lot for those tones. And I'll use that into a clean channel. And I'll use the TWE1 from Ethos. So it's meant to emulate Trainwreck. I've been using that a lot for kind of like lower gain plexi-ish sort of drive. So for the real sort of rock crunch sounds, I'm always going to the channel 2 gain version of that, or for Stonesy kind of tweedy sounds, I use an overdrive in front of my clean channel. That's just the way that I do it. Jeff's up in the Jeff Rupert's up in the top chat. I appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you. And he says, no questions week, just helping a brother out. But I thank you for your content. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I gotta say, so many of you guys, man. I met. There's probably some folks watching that I met at NAMM, but so many people are. There's some nice people out there. Like I met just some really, really cool people from all over the place at NAMM, and a lot of people mentioned the Sunday live stream. This is just something I started for the hell of it. Just a fun kind of thing to hang out and drink coffee and talk guitar. And I'm really blown away with people. They just they're like, man, it's really fun. I love sitting there on Sunday mornings and doing it. And it's really fun for me too. So thanks for saying hi to any of you folks I met at NAMM. And thanks for just being a part of this. And it was just, it's always nice to this is, the internet's great and everything, but it's great to meet people and stuff and be able to shake someone's hand and they say, man, really, dig what you're doing and stuff like that. And it just meant a lot to me. So it's pretty cool. Appreciate you being here. I do. Where are you in UK? Or maybe you're saying, when are you in UK? That's David Smith. Or maybe you're talking to somebody else, David. I'm not sure. I was actually just in the UK doing clinics not that long ago. And I had a great time over there. I hope I can come back and do more this year. Definitely talking about doing more stuff over there and also in Asia and stuff, clinics for the amp and whatnot. So we'll see what happens this year. Aaron says, did you try any of the new Martins? I did. I got actually a really great tour of the Martin booth it was actually the company Lawyer, I believe. He's a guitar player and a fan of guitar, and he knew who I was, and he brought me over there and he showed me some really beautiful. I learned actually the difference between an orchestra model and is it 000 or 00? I'm such an idiot when it comes to acoustic guitars, to be honest, but it's the scale length. So the bodies kind of look the same, but the scale length is longer on the orchestra model. So it has a slightly snappier, sort of more taut sound than the I can't remember if it's 00 or somebody will educate me out there. But anyway, a slightly more sort of squared off shoulders on those guitars are a little smaller. They're not quite as deep as a Dreadnought, but they record just beautifully. I'd love to get a guitar like that. And they were so light, these Martins that they had, these new ones. They were kind of like a new revamped. And I didn't know this, but Martin's also doing aged. Like you can get an aged D18 or an aged D28 that's got lacquer checking and the inside's aged. I mean, it looks like an old. They're really done nicely. I didn't know they were doing that. So that was really interesting. So I think I might be doing some more stuff with Martin soon. That was a vibe that I got from talking to the folks at the show and stuff. It was pretty cool. So we'll see. But let's see here. What else we got? Let's see. Moving down. Pete, I played the Forest National in Brussels this year, in Belgium. Jesse, and says, and found out you have too. Blew my mind. I love Belgium. That's a cool place. Okay, I might have to do a little moderation here, folks. I'm not 100% sure, but if there's any bullshit going on in the chat, just let me know and I'll handle it. Oh, there we go. And hide user on this channel. There we go. Yeah, guys, I'm getting a little harassment from somebody. So I don't want to focus on it at all or really even spend any time addressing it. But the person's just probably best left alone and is, I don't know how should I say, probably like not a good person to mess around with, maybe kind of stability wise. So I think the best thing to do is just leave it alone. And if anybody sees anything that seems disturbing or whatever that you want to report, I much appreciate it, because it's a little troubling. So it's not something I want. I'm going to leave it up to the authorities. Let me put it that way. Okay. Let's see here. When not playing and the amp is noisy and it's a big brand, what do you think? Sorry, I don't understand that question. That's from Inventor. Sorry, Inventor. Maybe just sort of reiterate your question. I can try and address it better. David Smith says, Pete, do you think there are guitars that had a special time recently that are better than now? Sorry, I don't understand that question either. Sorry, David. Do you think there are guitars that had a special time that are better than, oh, I see. Like maybe like, is there any models or something that, are you saying like, do I think vintage guitars are better than new guitars? I mean, I guess when I think about like the golden era of, you know, what I think was going on like with certain periods of guitar building, let's take Charvel for, you know, a little bit of time, Charvel Jackson, also like early Kramers, or when we think of, you know, certainly Gibson. I mean, it's like the golden era. There seems to be a magic that happens where it's like the amount of guitars that they're making versus the like quality versus, you know, when money comes into play and the companies start to grow too much and maybe get too big and stuff, things can get out of hand, I think. So we've seen that like numerous times. It certainly happened when, you know, with Charvel Jackson, I want to say, as, you know, it's a kind of a recent example. When you start seeing things going, it certainly happened with Kramer. You see things go overseas and stuff, and more of the focus becomes on that. That's a great thing about Suhr. I mean, not to just toot that horn, but you know, it's with Suhr, it's like I just want to say that they've never really like it's I know John has this real love of keeping a company like not too big, you know, like he's got a real affinity for, he's great friends with Tom Anderson, and he always says, you know, I'd be very happy if, you know, there's more demand for the Suhr guitars, but he's always says, you know, he says, you know, I sometimes wish I could have a shop just like Tom's where there's like 15 guys working or whatever, and you kind of keep the steady, consistent output, but it never, you know, it doesn't always have to grow and grow and grow and grow. So when you look at a company like Suhr, I think he's managed to really balance that out nicely and keep the quality there. And companies like Anderson and stuff for sure. And then what you want to avoid is the pitfall of the kind of going the way of the Kramers or whatever, or the, you know, that's just my opinion. So it's a balance, you know, it doesn't always have to grow and be bigger, I don't think, you know, how about just making quality guitars and consistently. When's the next Pete and Tim guitar show? I think I'm going to see Tim later, and I really want to get back on the you know, back on the horse and like be putting out more Tim and Pete shows. I wish we could do that. So I'm going to talk to him about it later tonight because there's no we just got busy, and so we haven't done that many. We got 400 people online. That's awesome. Glad to see you guys all here. John Turner says, he's up in the top chat. Thanks, John. He says, how do you feel about scale length as it relates to tuning stability and magnetic pickup string pull? Certainly with shorter scale guitars like Gibson's, 24 3/4, it's a little more difficult. Things are slinkier. It's not as taut. And I find there's issues. Usually the nut is a more sensitive thing. Like you have to, guitar is not a perfect thing anyway, the temperament of the tuning. Something about the shorter scale and then the nut on Gibson style guitars specifically. I notice a lot on the B string. A little trick that I do is I have to tune the B string flat on Les Pauls a lot. So the open note B will be just a hair flat. And then many times I'll notice when I hold down the 3rd fret D, that note will be in tune if I just tune it a little flat. And that solves a lot of Gibson tuning stability issues for me. If I just tune the B string a hair flat, and the G is a little bit of a culprit too. Those are the two on a Gibson that are tough with the shorter scale. So certainly I find that with longer, like 25.5, Fender scale instruments or whatever, the tautness and stuff, the tuning seems more stable and like it's easier to get the whole guitar in tune. And then there's a couple tricks you got to do the shorter the scale gets, and the tone changes too. Magnetic pickup string pull. I'm not so sure that I know that it affects that. I think it's got more to do with this. I think the tone differences in the tuning and stuff have more to do with the scale length than anything. Magnetic pickup string pull. I mean, when I think about most Gibsons, they got the magnet underneath most 24 3/4 scale guitars going to have the magnet underneath anyway, not the pull pieces like a Fender. And that's where you get the magnetic pickup string pull issues is, Fenders have the magnets are the pull pieces or whatever. So it's like a different that you got it's just closer or whatever. And that's most of the issue, I think. Because of the magnet design on a sync different. Jason is up Jason, yeah. Up in the top chat. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. He says, can you compare the feel of the PT15 to other amps? Is it stiff or has some sag to it? You can make it sag if you want to, but it's surprisingly ballsy, like especially on, the channel 2 and 3 sounds. It's, you can make it. I mean, I think you can probably hear it in the demo that I did where I come in to the first dirty part in the song right after the clean part at the beginning, and it sounds kind of Van Halen-y and sort of happy birthday to Ed Van Halen, by the way. It's his birthday yesterday. But anyway, that first kind of dirty rhythm part that comes in, it sounds kind of like something off Diver Down or something. I don't know. But it's got a real plexi kind of taut Class A/B sound to it. So now if you turn it up loud enough, you can make it squish out for sure because it's 15 watts. So but the magic is you can find the balance, and it's really cool. Channel 1 has its own dirty kind of fun Fendery thing going on. If you turn it up and make it start to distort and stuff, it'll start to do a thing like if we think about Tweed through Silverface, depending on how you got the amp set up and stuff, you can get it into those zone where you can crank it up. But it's very akin to a Bella channel 1 on the PT15. So that was really what John basically took. Because I've been using the Bella a lot and I like the clean channel. And he said, what do you think about if I took that circuit, did it for the clean and this sound? I was like, I'm all about it. Let's try it, see how it sounds. And it sounds great. It's essentially like very similar to a Bella, but with a master. So you can actually make it cleaner. So he just added a great sounding master volume to the Bella circuit, essentially. Most people, if you've ever tried a Bella, you'll know that it's hard to make it fart out. And like you can get the bass up there very full sounding and then start to, push it and it'll stay real full. And, it's a cool thing. So, okay. Moving down. Let's see. Hey, Pete, loving the new studio, says, Chicago, Chinago. Sorry, I can't read for shit, guys. So Chinago guitars, China guitar skeptic. God. I got to get some reading glasses, you guys. I'm sorry. China Guitar Skeptic. I remember seeing you at NAMM or at GetCon. Good, sir. How are you? Liam, hey, Pete, is there any particular amp you would recommend for a home use, something that takes pedals well and is aimed more towards blues rock tones. So obviously I got to recommend the PT15 because I think it's the most versatile, you know. I'm so stoked about that. Other amps, if you want, and I've got no problem mentioning a couple I saw at NAMM. There's a new Suhr combo that is worth a look. It's definitely it's made overseas, but he was addressing kind of lower price points. It's called the Blues. Is it the Blues King? But anyway, you'll see it if you go to the Suhr webpage, I'm sure. But it's 15 watts, I think, or maybe a little less. But it was $500, I think. So that looked like a nice little amp for blues rock tones. That you know, reasonable size. You know, I think he was trying to make a Blues Junior kind of killer, basically, with it. So that might be something to check out. David Smith sings love Rick Beato. He's so cool. He is great, man. Rick Beato's videos are fantastic, and I missed him at NAMM. I didn't see him, and I'm bummed about that because he's a cool guy, and yeah, he does great work. 430 people online. Thanks for being here, folks. I appreciate it. Pete, which powered full range cab would you prefer, the Atomic CLR or the Friedman, and why? Well, I can tell you the difference. Dave made the Friedman cab to sound kind of beefy, and he likes, you know, when you plug, almost like, you know, how a guitar player plugging into a cabinet, you know, you like a little bit of beef and chunk out of it. So it's got you know, it's going to kind of augment the sound of your modeler or something plugged into it. You know, if you play some dirty sounds through it, it's got some, like, maybe a little bit more than you would hear through headphones or a studio monitor. This Atomic CLR is made to be very, very, very flat. My shoulder's killing me. I like carrying my camera bag all weekend. I'm like, ah. But anyway, the CLR, very, very flat. When I plugged it in and I tried it, I did a video of it on my channel years ago. It reminded me a lot of my Atom studio monitors. I could go from the Atom to the CLR, and I went back and forth, and I was like, this thing sounds like a studio monitor. It's amazing. Very, very flat, and a huge sweet spot with its concentric kind of driver situation. That's the beauty of the CLR. You can walk way, way off from sort of the center of the throw of the cabinet, move way to the left or way to the right, and you still hear everything. So they're different strokes for different folks. If you want kind of more, you know, if you play metal and you want a little more like of an, like, it's not even necessarily like super flat. It's a full range cabinet, but it's got its own kind of thing. Dave wanted to make it aggressive, I think, because I've talked to him about it before. He thought the CLR sounded like thin to him, and I just thought it sounded flat. And so he made kind of, you know, that was his, you know, so it's a different stroke. So I would say if you want a flat sound, exact representation of what's going into it, the CLR. If you want maybe, you know, to beef up your modeler and have a little bit more of a guitar cab type effect, even though it's a full range cabinet, then maybe Dave Speaker. That's my recommendation there. And Chris says PT15, yeah, Chris Cam up in the top chat. Thanks, buddy. He says PT15 IR looks and sounds amazing. I'm sure it will be a while, but will we still see the PT50? Yes. Yeah. And you're asking this year. It takes the company a while to get things out, but I hope so. Yeah. I basically my dream and sort of vision for the PT50 would be to just make a 50-watt version of the same thing. Maybe it's got to be a little bigger because we're incorporating the load and all that, and it takes space. And so I asked them, could we do it in a small box style head, you know, like Marshall small box plexi, a little bit bigger than the existing one would, a 50 or, you know, 40 fit in something like that. And they were, you know, so that's kind of the where I'm, you know, if we could do it in the same size head shell as an SL67, I would be super stoked. We just don't know yet, I guess, basically with the 50, whether or not we'll be able to do the load. That's the only thing. Because of the, you know, it's a 15-watt load is one thing. It's more parts, more weight, and, you know, more components and stuff like that to do a 50-watt load, even more in 100. That's why a Suhr reactive load is a pretty hefty box. You know, to make a safe load that loads your amp, does it the right way, sounds great, and it protects it. You know, 100-watt amp you can crank into a Suhr reactive load. It's got to be a certain size and heft. You know, you can imagine a 50-watt would be, you know, similar thing, but a little bit smaller. 15, we could do it quite a bit smaller. You know, because the reality is I believe the load in the it'll handle at least double the power, if not more, than 15 watts. You need to way overbuild it. You need to provide room for that player that's going to crank the amp all the time into the load, and you don't want to have problems. So you need to overbuild it and make it really safe. You don't want to smoke it, which I've done with a load before, actually, cranking a 100-watt amp into a load that was only designed for 50 watts, and it caught on fire, full on smoke, and the whole thing. I was like, amp's not working anymore. Why? What's that smell? Oh my God, there's smoke coming out of that box. It was kind of like that, but that was a neat day. Christopher Kroons is up in the top chat. Thank you, my friend. And he says, hi, Pete. I love your PT100 Signature Edition. It has been my main amp for 3 years now. Can you explain the tonal differences between the PT100 SE and the PT15 IR? So what you'll probably notice is channel 2 and 3 sound really similar, but like really similar, basically. But of course, with the 15-watt power section, you can kind of easily more get into the kind of sweet spot of the power amp. So you're going to be able to play with power amp drive more. But when we directly AB'd, there were some differences. And then John said, okay, there's this one part in the 15 that's different. It's probably making the amp a little bit middier. Do you want me to try changing it? I said, yeah. And he pulled it out. And then it was like, now it sounds basically almost identical to the 100 on the channel 2 and 3. I was like, that's the sound I'm used to. I like that. And he said, okay. And we went with that. You might find it sounds even a little fuller in that, because I think John maybe left more bass in the preamp on the on channel 15. I'm not 100% sure, but it sounds perfect to me as is. And I just said, John, it's great. Like, made very few changes from the first incarnation of the prototype, the way that he thought that what I would like. Just a few things. The one change I just mentioned. Also fine-tuning the brights a little bit, because there's okay, so here's another thing that's different, is there's an individual bright switch on each channel. So you can have this is a nice thing, because you can have a warmer lead tone if you want. Then you can have your rhythm tone set up to be a little more cutting, and and then set up the lead tone to be a little bit more liquidy, and you don't need the bright switch on. So it's kind of cool. And on the other amp, you've only got the one bright switch for channel 2 and 3. So that's a difference. Now, channel 1 will be the most of the difference, which is it's more of a Bella style clean. And for those that don't know, the Bella lineage of it is really, I mean, it's for sure American, but there's some boutique, dare I say, D style, sauce there, and it's got a little bit more of that going on. It sounds great driven. Like, you can drive it up and get a great kind of, Tom Petty meets Stonesy kind of crunch out of the clean channel, no problem. And because once again, the low power, you can crank the power section up and get it in a really nice zone. It sounds, it's really harmonically rich, and the compression is like, on the clean, it's got the sparkle to it, 6v6s. So it's got that kind of more, they're better to me in many ways than an EL34 for clean sounds. EL34 for cleans to me is always a little bit of a compromise. It's not as open sounding. There's more mid-range, and that's just the way EL34s are, but we love them dirty. So with the 6V, it's this amazing kind of blend of, the chimey kind of clean, what we think of as American kind of tone. But then when you drive it, it doesn't sound like a 6L6 to me anymore. It has more of a, it just flattens out in this broad kind of way that's really cool. Tweed Deluxe, all those great amps. And like I say, the Jim Kelly and the Divided by 13 FTR 37 to me was always sounds like a great big deluxe reverb, double power deluxe reverb. And I used that amp on tour for a long time, actually. So I've played 6v6 amps for both the Kelly and the Divided by 13 at different points in my touring career, and really loved it. The FTR, and maybe people don't know that, but I used the FTR I was with a guy named Robbie Draco Rosa, if anybody in Latin America is out there, for a number of years. That was my main touring head with him. So it was a 4.6v6. So it's not the first time in my career that I've used that's going back around 2002, 2003 till 2005. I think the main amp I used with Draco was that FTR for about 3 years on the road. So it's a sound I'm used to, and kind of crunching it up, and it's too cool. You can do a lot with the volume control on the guitar too with those 6v6 tubes. It's really dynamic. Chris is saying, hey, Pete, is there an external input for the load IR on the PT15? Not really, would be my answer. It's not really designed to be used with other amps or anything like that. The load, you could probably do it, but we don't recommend that. I'm not exactly sure, to tell you the truth. I need to see the head again. I'm not sure the exact setup that because there is a way that they're running. The load is mounted in the head shell of the cabinet. And so, the sound's coming out from the amp and getting into the load and then coming back in. It's got that keeps it away from the circuitry of the amp a little bit, which helps with things like noise and and it also, there's just more room in the head shell for it. So, yeah, we don't recommend using it as a load with other amps, if that's kind of what you're wondering. Moving down. See, sorry, I'm probably taking a little too long. I'm gonna try and move faster through questions. And Michael says, "Hey Pete, hope you feel better soon. I know I'm coughing, and I enjoy your channel." Thanks, Michael. When I get a cold now, it lingers for like I'm not actually sick. Like, I don't think I'm contagious anymore. I just get congested and then I cough for like 3 weeks. It always happens. And it's just part of getting older. I don't recover the same way I used to. But I'm almost there. I'm on the mend. David says both yours and Tim's playing on the new Tube Screamer demo was stellar, and your vibe together is just refreshing. Thanks, man. I have so much fun with Tim. We did a UA thing the other day talking about the aux, which I also use, and also studio recording, and just to get to sit and listen to Tim talk about how he comes up with tones and parts. And it's just, I'm such a fan of his. He's so great. But yeah, he came in and he played a solo in the studio for the Ibanez Vemerem TSV 808, I believe it's called, pedal. And I actually have it sitting right there. But he did a great solo on that song. It was so fun. I think it was like second or third take or something. He just knocked out a few, and yeah, it's so cool. So check out that video if you haven't, for Tim's awesome solo. Hope to be there at next year's NAMM, says Colin. Love to shake the hand of the man that's taught me so much about guitar. You're too kind, man. Please say hi if you catch me there. I appreciate it. It's always nice meeting people there. I love it. What are your thoughts on the Moog pedals and them being discontinued? I didn't actually know that. I didn't know they were discontinued. That's too bad. That's from Pablo. I thought they were amazing. I did videos for them a long time ago, and they were unique and cool, with the cool filter kind of in the boost, and there's an overdrive and a delay that was really neat. That's too bad they're being discontinued. I wonder if it's the big one. Is it just a few that are being discontinued, or the big ones, or the small ones? I have never actually tried the big ones, only the small ones, and I really like them. It's a tough game, the pedal game. I mean, there's so many of them out there. It's like, how do you stay competitive, What camera do you like best for YouTube? Not this webcam. Yeah, I use a Sony kind of consumer grade. A great camera is the A6500. It's cheap. I mean, relatively cheap. It's under $1,000. It's $700 maybe. It's a terrific camera for both video and for still photography. Only problem is you can't turn the screen around on it, which for video is kind of a drag, because you got to set up the shot and then just kind of test it and then move behind and look at it. It's kind of a bummer. It's not really designed for doing video, but it works great for video. It actually looks better than my video camera, which is a Sony AX33 or something. It's like a consumer grade, like $750 4K video camera. But the DSLR style or whatever, I guess it's not a DSLR, it's a mirrorless camera, but the Sony, I have a Sony A6000, so I'm recommending the 6500, which is the new version. But my A6000 for video looks incredible. It's the one that, if you see my videos, it looks richer and more, like really good video. And then the other one, the Sony AX or whatever, the video camera, for whatever reasons, the lenses in those cameras just aren't as good as the ones in the DSLR style cameras or the mirrorless Sony cameras. Oh, somebody was up in the top chat and then they retracted their message. Sorry about that. If I don't know, I missed your question. If you want to ask again, I'd be happy to. Sorry about that. Okay, moving down. Let's see here. What new product stood out the most for you at NAMM? So I mentioned that that volume pedal. which was great. What else did I see? I saw some other cool stuff. There was a company called Audient that has a neat recording preamp you guys might have seen. That's for it's a collaboration with Two Notes, and the software integrates with the pedal. Sneeze again. Excuse me. So the Audient preamp, and I would say it's about as big as well, it's a little bigger than like a Strymon pedal or something. It's, you know, but it's an audio interface and mic preamp. It's got 2 mic pre's built in. It's got a guitar preamp built in, and then it integrates with Two Notes software for guitar power amp modeling as well as for cabinet models. It's cool. That was a neat looking thing, so I'm going to definitely do a demo of that. What else did I see? Celestion has a new Alnico speaker that sounds interesting for folks that want kind of nice, warmer sort of Alnico tones. It's called the Ruby 35. It looked really nice and sounded like from the you know, it basically looks like a blue, but it's red. But it'll handle 35 watts, so somewhere in between a blue and a gold. And they say that it's, you know, nice mellow top end. So a blue to me is actually kind of, until you really beat them up, they can be a little abrasive on the top. Not abrasive, that's the wrong word, because I love the sound of a blue with a Vox, but sometimes I do wish it was a little warmer. That's all. And I think this is a speaker that addresses that, evidently. So I'll be excited to try that. They also made a 10-inch version of the Creamback. So I assume it's probably kind of greenbacky and a, you know, different flavor of greenback in a 10-inch. That looked cool. What else did I see? I always audio guys, you know, they make that plasma distortion pedal, which is just this really brutal sounding distortion fuzz thing. They made a rack mount version of it that looks really cool. And they also made this crazy keyboard. I know we're guitar players here, but the synth was like basically like a 21st century Hammond organ is the way they describe it. But there's motors in it and it's all software controlled and stuff. But it looked like could be a repair nightmare, but what a cool thing. You know, if you were a sort of forward thinking person that's into analog synths and stuff, that looked really interesting. That new delay from Strymon looks really cool. I'd love to try that soon. Boss, of course, came out with their Was a tube amp expander. I haven't even talked about that. I really want to try that thing and see what it's all about, since I'm a load box aficionado. So that's a few things. Let's see. Do you still do dexterity exercises, finger exercises, random scales, or do you just play a lot? I do some stuff. I mean, when I sit down and you know, to warm up, I guess let me get a guitar. We got my old Strat right here. Where's that? When I sit down, automatically almost the thing that I start doing is just that chromatic, you know, like that kind of thing, you know, just first fret, second fret, third fret, fourth fret, spacing the fingers out and trying to play it in time and always alternate picking, starting with a downstroke, down, up, down, up. And I'll just do this, you know, while you're sitting there backstage or something warming up for a show, and you do that while you're talking to people for 10 minutes. So that always works for me. I also have like a few I play that sometimes. That's a Steve Morse thing. I can't remember where I saw that. It was like in a Guitar Player magazine, but it's a lot of string skipping going on. The thing I love about Steve Morse and his kind of warm-ups and things, he had another one. Anyway, it goes on and on and on, but I'll play that thing. It's a lot of string skipping, straight up. He was a strict alternate picker, and you have to jump over strings and do this. It's a hard piece to play, and it's not technically the most like probably efficient way to pick it and stuff, but what it does is it gets your hands synced together. So that's the thing for me, is getting my hands synced. So I'll either play that first, that Steve Morse piece, which sounds really beautiful with a nice clean sound. Somebody else is up in the top chat there, but those are kind of the main things. just get you up in the top chat here. That's Michael, and he's from Canada. He says, congratulations on the PT15IR. It looks fantastic. Would there be a software editor tool for loading the IRs? Well, it's actually not, you don't even really need an editor, but yes, it looks like a hard drive on your desktop. So you just plug it into USB, and essentially it just shows up like just says, Suhr RL or reactive load or something. I can't remember exactly what it says, but it pops up on the desktop, and you can just go in there, and then you can pull out cabinets if you want to load in your own, and then just drop some other ones in there that just update. You just power cycle the amp, and then next time you power cycle it on and off, those new ones are in there. It couldn't be simpler. So anyway, yeah, with the warm-ups, those are my main things. But just doing just also doing the, and also just trilling slowly, because I can't go much faster than that when I first sit down. I don't know if you guys, sometimes I'll trill between my pinky and third finger because that's weak, I do these things, and it takes me about, to be honest, it takes me 15 or 20 minutes. And I'm like, sucks, cold, feel cold, sucks. There it is, finally. And it's like, then all of a sudden I can play. I actually played that Steve Morse thing okay. I don't think I screwed it up at all. But when I first sit down, I kind of suck. I always do. So at least I feel like I do. It's hard for me to just pick the guitar up cold and feel comfortable. Muscles take a while for me. I don't have a real fast, like I say, when I first sit down to do a trill, that's as fast as I can go. It's not very fast. You see somebody like Paul Gilbert, it's just like, it's just like this crazy. But so I have to work at it, and then that'll slowly get faster and faster, and then come together a little bit more over like a half an hour of playing there, and then it's finally like, oh, now I feel more comfortable. I can actually do some stuff. Does the PT15 come with a foot switch, and what features does that foot switch have? It's just a 2-button foot switch, very similar to the old OD100 style switch. So one side, the left side, will change between channel 1 and the dirty side, channels 2 and 3. So clean sound or distortion sound, basically. And then the second foot switch on the other side will click between channel 2 and 3. So you can kind of preset whether you want to go to channel 2 and 3 by having it ready on that switch. And then when you go from your clean, you'll go to one or the other. Hope that makes sense. But simple 2-button foot switch with a TRS cable. We didn't do the MIDI on this amp for the switching. We just decided it's one way to save some bucks and not have to charge more for the amp, because there's more other features that were adding cost. Obviously, the IR loader and the load. So I thought, let's just do simple foot switch, and it works great, And the other reason we decided to do that is most units these days have some sort of channel, like a Helix even, or like, pedal board switching style units. The ES8 or these types of units, they've all got switching functions in them to switch your amp. So you can just run a cable from those right into the foot switch jack, your amp, and use the channel switching functions in those if you're a MIDI kind of person. So anyway, we decided it was a way to save a few dollars on the amp. Beautiful amp, says Camilo. Thank you. Did you use the TRS input on your interface to record? That's a great question. To record the PT. So to do the demo video that's out now for the amplifier, it was TRS cable right out straight into my UA interface, and just pulled it up on a plugged it into input 3, I think, on my UA interface, and pulled up a channel in Logic, and then just recorded. So there's no mic pre's involved, no nothing, just line into my interface. And those are the tones that you heard on the demo, and it was all direct. I intended on that song to actually mic the cab like for a couple parts, and I thought, why? Like, there's no point. It's really the main feature about this thing is that, it's got the IR loader and stuff. So I just went direct on that, but I'll do that later. We made a great little cabinet. By the way, the cabinet's right here. I guess I can show you guys the cabinet. I don't have the amp here, but I can show you the cabinet. I'm going to get it. We can check it out. I got to get it out of the corner here. I don't want to damage my old lamp here either. So it won't get screwed up. That lamp used to be in my parents' house. In the 70s. So the cab, bring that knock over my guitar. The cabinet is a 212. You can see it's deep, like a obviously I'm sitting on my knees, not that heavy.
It's deep like a 412 style. And we did, let me see if I can even get the reflection of the speakers. You can kind of see, I think, that it's like this, the 212s. So this is similar to cabinets that Marshall's done in the past and stuff for so like the 2061X style head. They had a similar cabinet, I think. But we listened to a whole bunch of speakers in the cab, and we decided to do a blend in this one, which is different for this amp. So it's Greenback V30. I listened to everything. We listened to H Greenbacks and M Greenbacks and V-type and all the Celestion range, basically. 2 Greenbacks together, 2 V30s together, and the good old Greenback V30 combo, which Dave Friedman's actually been doing for a while. He's like, you stole my thing. We tried it, and it just sounded great. It's a great cabinet. So this is a little 212. I love the Tolex that we're using on these too. We found this kind of looks almost leathery, so cool stuff. But that's a little cab that goes with the PT15, and it sounds beefy and ballsy. It's just a great little 212. So wanted to come up with something new. I still love the other one, the horizontal design. That one sounds really good. So it's fun. Let's see. Frank says your thoughts on the Celestion all mix with room mics option. So that'd be a Celestion IR. I love it. You can use that and just don't even try anything else. It just sounds great. Those all mic Celestion mixes, high gain, by the way. The low gain ones sound a little edgy to me, kind of bright for me. Even for clean sounds and stuff, I still like the high gain. They're just more balanced to me, but I love the high gain ones. Okay. Moving down. Mr. Barca says, forever my latest romp with a cold is lingering longer than ever, and it's like a political unrest. I can sympathize. It just sucks, right? Getting sick sucks. Let's see. Moving down. Video stream today is great. Good. Yeah, the quality looks like the video to me right now looks better than I've ever seen it, which is, I wonder why. I have no idea. Your thoughts on Tom Schultz? I think Tom Schultz is kind of a genius. I don't know about him as a person or anything like that. I think as a musician, and a designer, he was a visionary, and his guitar sound, a lot of people, I think with Tom Schultz, they widely sort of, at least folks in the 80s anyway, said, this guy had the craziest guitar sound until Eddie Van Halen came along. So the quality of the distortion and stuff, it was so unique. With what he was doing with Lodes and Marshalls and stuff back in the 70s, and then incorporating it all into the Rockman. And not to mention the way he would do studio recording and stuff like that. He was a really innovative guy. And also the sound of those Boston records, they don't sound like anybody else. It was completely unique sound quality to those albums. Such a style, and you just knew it was Boston as soon as you heard them. So I got a lot of respect for Tom Schultz. I think he was a real just kind of visionary, interesting, like kind of MIT sort of nerdy guy, right? And just became a rock star. It's cool the way he combined. I got a lot of love for nerds that become rock stars, I guess. Paul Gilbert the other night, wearing his like purple suit. I don't know if you guys saw him at the NAMM. So the purple suit with the purple guitar and his glasses on. He's rocking this kind of like nutty, I don't know, college professor meets rock star look these days. And he's just cool. He was so great, so much humor, and there's great vibes coming off that guy is playing, and just he's a lot of fun. I think he's so cool. So I saw that UA live with Tim and Pete. It was great. Another buddy, Corey, was the host. This is from BV Ninja. Corey's a really nice guy. He's works for UA and does a lot of demo stuff for them. He's also a great guitar player, Nashville guitar player. And I actually had dinner with him last night at the UA thing. We sat at the same part of the table and stuff. We had a good time. Let's see. The Sony... Oh, this is great point here from J Money 85. The Sony A6400 they just came out has this flip screen so you can see yourself. That's great to know. I didn't know that. Thanks for teaching me about that. So everybody look for the the camera that J Money is recommending there. It's the Sony A6400 flip screen. This is an important thing because when you got the camera and you're trying to shoot video and then you want to, you know, actually, do I have my camera here? Yeah, here's my A6000. I'll show you what the issue is with it. So it's got this, oops, sorry, one sec. It's got this screen on the back that, you know, it's a great screen and stuff, but you cannot flip it around. It just kind of pops out and comes out, but you can't turn it, you know, this way, 180 degrees, which a lot of cameras, Canons and stuff, you can do. You can just flip the video screen around. And then when you've got the camera set up on a stand, you can look at the screen coming out the side and set up the shot, you know. So that's the only thing. But this camera, this is an old A6000. It takes amazing pictures and video for the money. Just a terrific camera. Not too expensive. But this is great to know. This A6400 seems to solve some of the issues. Do you know Blue Saraceno, says Dan? I do. It seems like he does the same type of work and lives in your world. He does. We were actually used to be neighbors. I now moved to a different part of LA, but Blues, excuse me, lives in the Valley, and he's a great guy. He's super cool and really had great chats with him about, you know, his dad's a really interesting character. Made all the amps, the Dirty Boy amps, as well as the pedals. Is he totally different type of call, or do you compete with him for work? Well, he works a lot in the TV world. He's worked in TV music for a long time, and he's in tight with, you know, doing a bunch of, you know, guitar on shows and stuff like that. So he's in, it's a different world than me. I don't do a lot of that stuff. Done a little bit of it, but not like him. You know, he cultivated that and started going back many years. But he's a really, really nice guy and such a great guitar player. I like Blues a lot. I liked him back, you know, when he first came out. I loved his sort of almost cleaner tone, and he played fast and technical, but wasn't like too fast. It was like, you know, he kind of reminded me of Paul Gilbert in some ways, but with like maybe a little bluesier and a little like slower in his approach, just a little. But it was cool, and his songs were cool and hooky and cool riffs, and he's a great guitar player. Really like technically accurate, just kind of ripping like with a lot of authority, and the rhythm. That's what it is. It's the rhythm in his riffs. They're, you know, and I like that, like where you can really hear even through a fast phrase, you can hear an articulation of the groove and stuff. And he had that quality when he was 16 years old, you know, 17. Do you still use the API transformer? I have that thing here. And I do want to use it actually. It's a preamp DI compression and EQ kind of thing from API. So nice for bass, as well as acoustic guitar and clean guitar parts. Okay, looking for recommendations. What EL84 Voxy amp is everybody enjoying? That's from Chris Cam. My go-tos are an RSA31 from Divided by 13, as well as a Vox AC15 hand-wired that I have here. So I love my AC15 hand-wired. It's great. I use the normal channel on it mostly, either on the low gain input or sometimes on the high gain. But has more input, more input. Has more headroom, obviously, on the low gain input. But it's a great sounding amp. One knob, clean channel. Turn the bright switch on. Sounds great. I use it all the time in pedal videos and stuff. So little AC15 hand-wired I bought used, and sounds great. Thanks for the info on the reactive load IR. I love it. That's from Big Boss. You bet, man. I'm glad you like it. The Ernie Ball tuner volume pedals a must-have, says Alan. Thanks for telling us about that. You bet. Yeah, it's kind of a, you know, I went by Ernie Ball and they didn't tell me about it. And then I walked by later and I saw it. I go, why didn't you tell me about this? This is so cool. I know Mayer was at the show, John Mayer, and he saw it and he posted about it. So this thing's so cool. It's funny, like it's like the simplest thing, a volume pedal with a tuner. That's the thing we get excited about at shows, because it is true. It's hard with pedals and things because there's so many pedals and so many, you know, it's like how many different just ways can you do distortion and stuff. And the things we'll get excited about are like, well, that looks like a useful thing, a volume pedal with a tuner in it, you know, like makes your gig easier or whatever. Best tuners for an open book headstock. That's from Super Gigawatt. My favorite headstock tuner by far is the the TC, the Polytune. I don't know about you guys, but talk amongst yourselves about that. But I really like the TC Polytune headstock tuner. It's a little bulky with the clamp. It's a little like primitive or something, but it works great. The tuner in it is as good as a regular Polytune, I think. A lot of headstock tuners to me, like Snarks and stuff, I'm not really that crazy about. Let's see here. A6500 is 1098 body only. That's the cameras we're talking about again. How much is the A6400 though? Does anybody know? Can somebody go look and then post it? I'm just wondering because I would like one. It's got the screen that turns around. That's pretty cool. Let's see here. Let's see. Stefan says, make my Sunday and tell me hello. My buddy is at NAMM looking to say hello, but unfortunately you'd left. Hey, what's up, Stefan? And say hi to your buddy. Yeah, I took off. I generally don't go Sunday. It's just too much. By Saturday night, I'm done. Yeah, it's generally speaking. Okay, moving down. Really appreciate your videos, Pete, says Al Baker. Thanks. I find a lot of YouTube guitarists are not as credible as others, i.e. you and Tim Pierce are examples of pros then turn to YouTube rather than being the goal. I guess it's just a reflection of our age. I mean, it's like, you know, and also the willingness to embrace doing something else besides what we've been traditionally doing. Not a lot of people are comfortable doing this stuff for various reasons, you know. But Tim definitely embraced it, and it was a big step and kind of cathartic. I think almost like he I don't know if Tim felt, you know, he's mentioned me, he's not awkwardness or whatever, but just being comfortable in public on camera, that kind of thing wasn't really his thing. And he just kind of conquered that fear and embraced it. And it's been really great for him. Like he feels like it's been a terrific thing, the whole YouTube experience. For me, it's the same kind of thing. I guess you got to get used to it. And I embraced it, and I had no idea this would become a big part of what I do, you know, when I started doing it. But yeah, moving from kind of like doing, you know, my career mainly was touring sideman, you know, starting in the mid 90s, you know, also record deals and bands and things, trying to get that going, but that never really took off. I never really had a band blow up big or anything like that. It was the sideman thing that sort of slowly grew. And then YouTube became, you know, maybe around 2010 or something. So it was like, whoa, this thing's actually becoming something. I need to get serious about it, I guess. And it's been great for me too. I love it. It's very natural feeling. It doesn't feel like you have to try too hard or anything like that, which has been nice. Let's see, out of all the drive and distortion pedals you've demoed, which one sticks out most in your mind? I'm due for a new pedal. You're an inspiration. Thanks. That's from, you guys are too kind. Mayor Sard one. Sorry if I'm saying you're wrong, the name wrong. I will get some reading glasses eventually. The drives that really, okay, just off the top of my head that really stick out for me. If it's an overdrive distortion, the BEOD, I really like the Riot Mini. I really like the distortion. I like the Lagrange a lot, the Bogner Lagrange. The blue is great, and I used it on my pedal board a lot, but the Lagrange had a great Marshall-y thing that, with the blend control between the jumper channels kind of thing. If you guys haven't tried a Bogner Lagrange, I don't feel it's kind of a sleeper. I don't know if that many people got one, but what a great sounding distortion pedal. What else? I love the Archer. You know, I've done a couple videos for different versions. Also, the Tumnus is really great for Klon style, but I bond with the Klons a lot. And then beyond that, beyond the ones I just mentioned, it's fuzzes. Really like the BAE fuzz. What else? I'm thinking of a cool fuzz. I like that new Fuzzstration from Wampa. That's a really cool pedal. The BAE I love with the treble. The reason is because it's got a treble booster built in, you know. The 65 treble booster too is great. I like treble boosters. They just, you know, that's one of some of the greatest tones, you know, Tony Iommi, early Judas Priest, Brian May, obviously, were treble boosters into kind of warm, slightly overdriven amps, you know. and that is such a great guitar sound. And so I like that a lot. So the 65, they've got a great treble booster. Divided by 13 had a great one called a Dyna Ranger that I never did a video of actually, but with a 5-position click switch on it for different sort of bass settings. You can add it, make it thinner or thicker. And the 65 is sort of similar. Okay, so I just saw one at NAMM. It's a Laney thing. It was at the Laney booth. I can't remember the name of the company. They've got a new sort of side division for their pedals, but they had a treble booster. That's a Tony Iommi signature thing. And evidently, I was told the story that Tony Iommi had a range master. He was playing in a band with somebody else, and the other guy's range master sounded better than his. He's like, "Why does your guitar sound better than mine? Because we have the same similar rigs otherwise." And he said, "Well, my brother modified it. He put different parts in it or something." And so Tony had his modified like that. And that was early, all the Black Sabbath stuff, actually through the early 80s, evidently. Well, then he had his pedal board rebuilt, evidently. And when he had that done, the guy that redid his pedal board threw away the pedal, evidently, which is just mind-blowing to me. But, and he got the new pedal board and he said, why can't I get this sound? Like, where's it? He goes, well, I changed your distortion or whatever. And he's like, well, where's the other one? And he's like, I threw it away. Can you imagine? I mean, it's so dumb. But anyway, then he had to go through this process of having to try. He said it wasn't that difficult, actually, the designer at Laney, because he said at that point, Tony had to take a range master circuit and then have somebody mod it until it sounded like he wanted, because there's only like a few parts in one anyway. So it's such a simple circuit. So he said, there it is. Eventually they fixed the sound. And anyway, that's the version of this treble booster that Laney's making now. So that I'm kind of excited about trying, but I just went off on a whole treble booster rant when you were asking about overdrives and distortions, but hey, they were the early overdrives and distortions, I guess. And they sound super cool. 6,400 is $898 at B&H. That's from Lawrence. Thanks, man. That's a great camera. If you guys want, I know it is, get that 6,400. If it's like my 6,000 with a flip screen, it's going to do what you want. All right. The Suhr PT15 is the amp of the future. Thank you. Thank you. Did you use the TRS input on your interface to record the Suhr PT, or I think I already answered that, didn't I? Maybe that question got copied twice. Yeah, for the demo, I just came line out of the PT and right into my UA interface to record all those sounds. That's all the IRs in the amp and using the reactive load and that stuff. Night Mission says, Pete, what size fret wire is on your signature model? Would you compare to Ibanez Jumbo fret wire if possible? Probably similar. It's a 6100 style type fret wire. It's definitely beefy. I like that stuff. I used to use 6105 for a while, and then we made a running change. I still like 6105. The black Suhr I have, kind of proto signature model of mine that I have, still has the slightly smaller tall fret wire, and then my gold one as well as my blue one that has the bigger wire. I'll show it to you if you want. The guitar's right here. You can kind of get a vibe of the fret wire. It's that tall wide stuff. It's pretty jumbo, and I just like it. I don't know. I figured out in the 80s I liked it, and then I moved away from it. And one day I just said, I gotta try 6100s again. I was like, yes, this is my thing. It's just, these are the frets I feel comfortable in. I can fly on them, it's more comfy. 2 people are up in the top chat. Thanks, guys. I'll get up to you and say hi. Sean is there. He says your work inspires. Thank you. I saw your Celestion IR video on clean sounds. Do you have similar recommendations for dialing in great cleans with non-Fender amp with the aux? My 2 favorite clean cabs on the aux are probably the Deluxe Reverb cab is cool. It's kind of warm and darker. The open back 410 is great for sparkly stuff. So try that. And the like a basement style cabinet. And then the other one's the 212 Vox style. So those are the 3 that I gravitate towards for clean sounds. As well as just kind of like open back combo sounds. Those are my 3 favorites: Deluxe Reverb 1, open back 410, and the Vox style cab 212. There's some other ones in there like the custom 212 that's supposed to be kind of, I don't know, Dumbly or 65 watt Celestion or something, I assume. Some other ones, I don't like them as much. Those are, for whatever reasons, the ones I just mentioned, those are the ones that I really like. So you could try experimenting with a little 1176 because you have that in there. Turn on the 1176, just get a 3 dB of compression or something, a little bit at the end of the chain. And as far as mics, I would probably use, it's really just a matter of experimentation, but I would probably use one dynamic and then blend it with either the U87 style condenser, or U67, I guess it is, in the aux. Blend in some rooms, and then also, so the 3 mics, I would probably use the 57, and then for the second mic, I would use either 121, M160, or the U67. Just give those a try. See which one blend to taste. You know, a little bit of plate reverb, maybe blend in the rooms. But those in the cabs is the most important thing, probably. Hey Pete, with the PT15 IR, can you go straight to front of house with an IR while going to cabinet with no IR at the same time? Yes, you can. You can totally do that. Somebody was just up in the top chat. Oh, it's Peter Evans, I think. Great show. Thanks for sharing your Sunday. Thanks, guys, for doing the top chat. I hope I didn't miss one there. There was a few at once, and I hope I didn't get too long-winded on one of them. But anyway, thanks, Peter Evans. Appreciate that, and for doing the top chat, and as well as the previous poster. I forget your name now, but thanks for asking the question about the yeah, you can totally run the amp with the cab and then take the line out and go to the PA at the same time, either with or without IRs. You could actually take a direct line. You could be using the cab, take a direct line out, defeat the IRs if you want to, and have just the DI out. You could use it for slaving if you wanted to, through effects and a bigger, like a wet, dry, wet thing. You could totally do that. All kinds of different ways you can use the amp. That's the cool thing. It's like, you know, people ask me questions. I'm like, yeah, you can do that. Like the different types of configurations. You know, it's possible to do all kinds of things. So somebody else is up in the top. Oh no, that same guy. That was Peter. Okay, in the top chat. The Roland headstock tuner is awesome too. That's from Alan. I like that one too. I have one somewhere. I don't know what I did with it, or somewhere, but yeah, I remember liking the Roland one. I just haven't seen mine for a while. Best delay in front of an amp, analog or tape. Both cool, just depends on the vibe you want. Analog is going to be darker, murkier. Tape delay is going to be a little brighter and thinner, generally speaking. It just depends on the character, you know, whether you want that Echoplex thing or that Memory Man thing. Both are cool in front of an amp. Let's see. Scott Anderson says that his headstock tuner changes his tone. Scott has a real, you know, ear for that's possible. I mean, it changes the mass of the headstock, you know. I would think it would give you more sustain, if anything. But Scott's real. If there's anybody particular, you know, he likes things to show. I love Scott. Like, dude is amazing. He's a riot too. He's a cool guy. All right. Let's see. Moving down. Let's see. Lost my place, guys, in the chat. So try and find where I am here. Robert is in the top chat again. He says, can you describe the effects loop on your new PT15 IR? Thanks for all the great questions about the amp, guys. Effects loop is tube buffered. It's a simple loop, kind of at line level, but not too hot. So we tested it with some Strymon pedals and stuff. I was able to, if I really push the masters, make like an L cap stand, for instance. I could make it clip in kind of an ugly way. So we discovered that basically what we'll recommend is that you keep the masters on the channels. Maybe if you want to be really safe and you want to hit the guitar hard and maybe turn on some pedals, keep them down around 3 on the channels, and then adjust the overall volume with the master output. And that's if you're using pedal level effects in the loop. Strymons are kind of like, they'll handle, they're a little conservative with the, like Boss DD500 and stuff have found they'll handle more levels. So it just depends on what you're using, but you can totally use pedal level effects. You just have to, you know, set your gain staging with the masters just right. John really doesn't like to go too pedal level with the loop, like too much gain, because you build up all this sound in the amp and stuff, and then you hit the loop and you got to attenuate, and he feels like it neuters things tonally. He doesn't like to do that too much. So it's a balancing act, you know. So the level of the loop is you know, essentially line level, but not too hot. So we wanted to, you know, make it so you could use should have no problem with Strymon timelines, Mobius, certainly not Eventide H9 and those types of pedals in the loop. Boss DD500, all that stuff's going to work well. And yeah, it's tube buffered, so you're going to be able to run, you know, if you want to run long cables from the head all the way out to your pedal board and back, you're going to be fine. John's effects loops are the best, like best in the business. Let's see. Moving down. I'm just gonna go somewhere mid in the chat here, guys, because I kind of lost my my place. My thoughts on the MXR Super Badass distortion pedal. Casper is asking. I tried it once. I don't know. I didn't really, I don't really remember, to tell you the truth, but it didn't really, like, it didn't blow me away or anything like that. I don't think, from the time I remember trying it, to tell you the truth. I really like the MXR 5150 though. I did a demo of that on my channel. And I think it's a George Tripp's pedal. That pedal sounds great to me. Have you tried any of the Fuchs Casino series amps? I have not. I'm sorry. That's one that I don't know about. Let's see. There's some info. Deer Creek Audio, Sony A6400 has no stabilization features, and the flip screen requires the eyepiece to be removed. Deal breakers for V-loggers. Okay, a couple things about it that some folks might not like. Stabilization isn't too much of a big deal for me because I'm always mounting it on a stand and stationary in my studio, so I don't think that would affect my as well as the eyepiece. I never look at it almost because I'm looking at the screen and doing video and then pulling the card out and importing the video into my so but I could see how that could be an issue for sure for some folks. I personally love the Van Halen size stainless steel frets, says Do. We're talking about frets again. I think they've changed on the Wolfgang guitars to slightly bigger frets, haven't they? I don't know. I could be wrong. Mine back there, which you can see the edge of right there. That guitar's got really tiny stainless steel frets on it, the ones they originally came out with on the Wolfgangs, which for some reason on that guitar, it's fine with me. It's like, it doesn't bother me. I love that guitar. That lamp, fix that. Yeah, it looks like it's going to fall, doesn't it? All right, I'm going to go fix it. You're right. I don't want it to fall. Okay, trust me. It's cool there. I'm going to put it back on the speaker cabinet. I'm going to move it back later. What else we got here? That's funny, though. That lamp, fix that. Somebody's OCD. I get that. That was Pedro. Sorry, Pedro. Okay. Can you run a Kemper through your new amp and use the power amp section? Sure, you could do that. You could run into the return and use it as a power amp. Let's see. If you record a guitar track and double, one left and one right, this is Dupree guitar. You play with the first record, for example, the left one, as playback for the right channel, or do you mute the left channel? I think you're saying, do I track to the other one? Like at the same time. If I'm doing a double that's identical, I'll generally listen to the other one, but I'll turn it down just a little, like a dB or two, so I can primarily hear the one that I'm tracking now. But to tell you the truth, I've gotten to the point where I don't care anymore. I just kind of like, I'll do the original track, and if I know it's a good take, I'll pan it, and then I'll do the other one. I like to hear the one I'm doing in my left ear. I don't know why, but my left ear seems to be my, like when I'm playing live or whatever, also I'm generally on stage left. I like to hear my guitar panned a little bit left and a little bit louder. But it's kind of like which side you talk on the phone on, it's like everybody always picks one, it seems like. But anyway, yeah, generally I don't really care that much. Like when I'm doing a double, I'll just listen to the other one in a double, and it kind of feels good. Like you're playing along with the double, and when if you fall back a little bit or go forward, you can feel it a little bit with the other one. So I like to hear the other one. Of course, those things are good sometimes, a little bit of variation within reason. Yeah. Are you going to be trying the new Boss load box? Yeah, I think so. I went by there yesterday and saw all the guys and stuff, and the day before as well. And yeah, I'm definitely going to check that thing out. It looks really cool. Right. Banana Hammock just got here. He says, I guess I'll start from the beginning. Moving down. Was at NAMM Friday and Saturday, says Bill's Studio. Saw as much as my legs could hold out. Any vendors that you really like that did not come? I didn't see Divided by 13 and a few others. Yeah, I don't know that Fred's ever gone to NAMM, Divided by 13. The reality, Leon says, my chats aren't showing. Am I blocked? No, sir. You are here. Leon Barron. No worries. Maybe there was some delay or something. Yeah, so divided by 13, boutique builders, smaller companies. NAMM's expensive is the reality. And that's why sometimes you see even big companies not go, because they're like, well, financially it doesn't make sense. The booths, an average booth at NAMM, that, you don't quote me, but 25 grand, 35 grand, 45 grand, depending on the size. They spend a lot of money to go to there. And, not to mention taking time off work, bringing all the gear out there, everything you got to do. It's a huge expense. And sometimes it just doesn't make sense to, you got one new product coming out or a couple new products. And it's like, why are we going to do this? Like, our dealers are you can put up the stuff online anyway. You can let your dealers know, you can have an phone conference and they can see that is it really worth it to, blow, $50,000, $100,000, whatever it ends up the expense being for these companies to go, not to mention the big companies. When you think about what a company like Boss is spending, or this is why Gibson didn't, Gibson was obviously having financial troubles, and I don't think they were there last year, right? They really went all out this year. I think they were like, hey, we're back. We're here. Here we are. But they had a hell of a room. It was huge. But, those are decisions that was a decision they made, I think, to put on obviously a show and say, hey, we're here, we're making this work, and but at great expense. It's an expensive thing to go to. So for somebody like Divided by 13, the other thing is Divided by 13, Fred, they can only make so many amps. It's a small companies, and Fred generally, as far as I know, is always back ordered. He's always got a customer list, people waiting for things, which is a great problem to have, a quality problem. And it just doesn't make sense. Why are you going to go to NAMM? It's like, I don't got time to go to NAMM. I got to make amps for weeks just to catch up on some orders. And I can't handle more orders if I got them, so there's those concerns. So I think maybe sometimes people perceive it as companies are having business problems, when the reality is companies are having no business problems. That's why they don't go. They don't need to go do. Part of NAMM is going to drum up business and get orders. If you don't need to do that, then why are you going to go? So anyways, there was nobody within 50 miles to work on my guitars, fret level, dress, etc. What would you recommend I do? Ship it somewhere. That's from Corey. That's a tough one, man. Yeah, I mean, what do you do? I would recommend, 50 miles. I would probably recommend taking a day trip with all my guitars at some point to a city. Go make a little, 2-day vacation out of it, or 3-day or something, and drive all your guitars somewhere where it makes sense, and get somebody to work on them, and once a year or something like that, make a little pilgrimage somewhere to get things set up. And if you need some work done, it's a drag. I know. I was talking to somebody yesterday, a Colombian guy that moved to Miami, and he lives in Miami. He's a very nice guy, guitar player and music manager. And he was saying that he doesn't have a great tech that he likes in Miami. And I was like, God, there's got to be somebody in Miami. I got to ask some people I know that work in Latin music, with friends with guitar players that play with like Jennifer Lopez and stuff. And so these guys have got to know some people in Miami that work on instruments, So I was going to look around, but it can be hard to find a good tech. The techs for those that want a good recommendation for the LA area, because I get asked a lot. My favorite guys in LA, Norik Renson at Renson Guitar Repair in the Valley's always been great. He does really good work. Him and a fellow named Brett there have been there forever. They're in Studio City. So Renson Guitar Repair, Renson. He's great. He's teched for a lot of big, artists on the road and stuff like that. And there was a guy, Bobby Carlos, who I don't know if he does independent guitar repair, but he used to tech for, a lot of big artists, be out on the road. You'd hear him, he'd have a gig with, the Eagles or different bands, and he'd be out on the road, but he would do guitar repair as well. And he was in Venice or Santa Monica area, kind of on the west side. So Bobby was cool. Bobby Carlos, if anybody can find him. And then the other place is Eric at Lush Guitar. His company is called Lush Guitar. He makes custom guitars, but he works out of Tour Supply in the Valley in LA, which is at Third Encore. It's a rehearsal facility. Tour Supply, for those that don't know, is another great resource for those that want, if you need pedal boards, you need cables, you need pedals, you need things that you can't find other places if you're going on tour. I don't know, like, I don't know, gooseneck microphone lights thing. You know what I mean? Like things that mount on microphone stands that are like little LED lights or things for your, for your work, or you need a work box if you're a tech, actually. And, with all the guitar kit stuff, and they sell stuff like that. Also road cases. And I bought my guitar vault there to put a bunch of guitars in on the road. So Tour Supply is a great resource for gear. Eric works at Tour Supply. So Eric is the tech at Tour Supply, and he does really, really good guitar repair if you need somebody. So look up Tour Supply, Third Encore, Bush Guitar, Eric in the Valley. Yeah. Those are some techs in LA if you need somebody. Ronald Smith says, love your live streams and demos, especially the Amps in the Zone series. I have a 65 Bandmaster head and Piggyback 212 using as a pedal platform. Recommendations for a Marshall Crunch pedal. Well, I actually mentioned some of my favorites earlier. That's from Ronald Smith, by the way. Ronald, I like the Lagrange a lot. The Riot does a great kind of, JCM 800 sort of thing. I like the Friedman BE for more modded. Is hard to beat. Really great sounding pedal. Those are some of my favorite Marshall-y kind of pedals. I've done a bunch of them, though. Those are always the ones that come to mind. Let's see. I see Leon asking again about how does the PT-15 compare volume-wise to the Hedgehog with everything at 1 o'clock. I'm not sure. I kind of answered it earlier, but I'm not sure, Leon, exactly how it would compare. It's more like I would compare it more with the Bella. It would be comparable to the Bella in half power mode. It's really close to the wattage of the Bella anyway. It's, at about really 16 watts clean power. The Bella at half power is 22. It's not that much, it's dB or something different, maybe 2. So think about a Bella like in the half power mode. Probably a little more headroom, though, to tell you the truth, because it's got a master. So, yeah. Okay. What else we got? Super Jugawatt says the MXR Badass sounds great into the effects return of an amp. Yeah, I never tried it like that. I met Ola England yesterday. He was a great guy. Such a cool guy, and I like his videos a lot. Ola testing shit. I love that series. He does good work. But anyway, he likes to do pedals into the effects return of his amps. Different way to run them for sure. Using it as the kind of the entire preamp. Aaron says MXR FET driver is a sweet pedal, kind of tube driver-ish. Sweetwater is clearing them out right now for $70. That's an interesting thing. It's basically like a tube driver circuit, but they just use the FET kind of components to replace the tube stuff. I would like to try that pedal for $70. It's a pretty cool pedal, I would think. FET driver, and a different kind of thing. Pete, thanks for your time today. Time for me to go to a kid's birthday party. That's from Chris Schultz. Have fun, man. I'll see ya. Let's see. Why do you have the Bassman head, says Deer Creek Audio? I bought that Bassman head for $295, I think. Maybe $305. I remember some weird price like that. Going on about 16 or 17 years ago now. And it just, I don't know. I plugged it in and it sounded cool in the store and it was cheap. And I was like, I don't have anything like this. I don't have a blackface Fender. I should buy this thing. So I bought it. And it's turned out to be a cool amp as a pedal platform and using videos. Anytime anybody complains that I don't use cheap amps, it's like, well, it cost me $300. I don't know. It's kind of a cheap amp, single channel. It's a good sounding amp. To be honest, it just doesn't sound as good as like the Hedgehog, for instance, or now my PT-15. You can do a Fender style. So it's just a simple circuit. I mean, you can make the thing in the woods, I think, but there's better sounding versions of it, I believe, these days. A blackface Fender circuit is not like a complex thing. And so my Suhrs that have that type of circuit in them, John really loves blackface Fender amps, and he gets that whole, and how to, couple component tweaks, and it's just, there it is. It sounds better, and so I kind of gravitate towards other ones, but the Bassman does sound good. Enjoy the show and your playing. We both worked with Jen Condos. Oh, wow. She replaced Jason Sheff in our band in the mid 80s. That's Glenn Barron. He's up in the top chat. Thanks, Glenn, for doing the top chat. Jen Kondos is a bass player that I played with in my first band that got a record deal eventually over in Japan, actually around 1995. We were signed in Japan, and which was kind of my break into the music business, really. That was when I was able to really like quit a day job and just start doing music full time. It was a little over 20 years ago, I guess. But Jen Kondos, great bass player who never played. Glenn can appreciate this. I'm sure he never played too many notes or overplayed, and every note meant a lot. Every single note meant a lot. And she used to play the bass, and then every now and then she'd hit a note and do this with her leg. Right, Glenn? You remember that. But wait, it was this leg. She'd play and then lean into it and lift her leg up like that. I always remember that about Jen. And she was sweet and cool and like a super, super cool lady. Awesome bass player. Played with Don Henley in the 80s, like kind of during the end of the Innocence period. She toured on that record and stuff. She's a great bass player. Leon Barron up in the top chat. Thank you, man, for doing that. I appreciate it. He says, thanks for all you do. Apologies for multiple questions and well done on the new amp. That's okay, man. Ask as many questions as you want. That's what we're here for. And I hopefully I can say something interesting as a reply. Do you have any new power or any power scaling on the PT15? That's from Lawrence. It doesn't have power scaling, but it has an exceptional master volume in it. And because it's actually got, I mentioned a little bit earlier, for those that joined recently, we got almost 500 people online. This is awesome. 492. So I'm going to keep going for a little while. Power scaling it doesn't have, but one thing you can do, if you plug into the main speaker output on the PT15, it's marked in red. There's somebody up in the top chat, so I just want to say it's Joel Price, and he says, I'm about to pick up one of your signatures. Any idea when they'll start shipping with the new trim? That's from Joel. Joel, I'm not 100% sure about that. I got to get a little bit more clarity on that. I thought that that's what's happening right now. I think that new ones are coming with the trim, but I just need to make 100% sure. It might be something you want to check with your dealer, but I can double check on it. You can send me an email if you want at PeteThorn@ymail.com. There's an email contact on my website as well if you want. I'll do a little more research into it for you if you want. But I'm under the impression that they're shipping now with the new bridge. So anyway, thanks for doing the top chat. Appreciate it, Joel. Back to the question about, does it have power scaling? So it doesn't have power scaling, the new amplifier, but what it does have, use the main speaker jack, go into a speaker cabinet, you're going to get full, basically 16 watts really of clean power going to the cabinet. If you come out of the speaker jack 2, the load is going to be still engaged, and you're going to be running the load in parallel with the cabinet. And what that does is drop it down to about half power. So now you got 7 watts. So it's kind of power scaling. It's basically running a load, the reactive load in parallel. Doesn't change the tone or anything like that. You basically have a 7-watt amplifier then. So kind of one power scaling / attenuation setting, half power switch really. The only thing you need to do if you do that with this new amp is to set the impedance to half. Because now you've got, it's kind of like you're running 2 cabinets almost, but one of them is just sucking power and not making noise, and the other one is actually making noise, right? So just like you would if you're running 2 cabinets, you've got a half the impedance. So for instance, on an 8-ohm cab, you would use the 4-ohm output impedance setting on the amplifier. So that's kind of neat. I think it's great. It's got that feature. It's basically like, you can think of it as 15/7 watts. Glenn Barron's up in the top chat. Oh, sorry, I answered that one already. Sorry, it's this other one. CG is up in the top chat, and he says, do you know any companies making 26.5 or 27-inch scale necks? I don't want a 7-string. I just want to have a guitar to tune down. You know, I would think Warmoth would do that, or maybe Musicraft. They must have a baritone style guitar neck. You want a guitar to tune down. You know, have you seen my Dan Electro? Here somewhere. What the heck is it? Oh, I would just get a baritone, man. Something like this guy. I love this guitar, and this thing is tuned all the way to down to B. It sounds just great. It's a really fun guitar. So look at a baritone, something like this from Dan Electro, or who I met the owner of this company, by the way, the other day. He's a great guy. He's hilarious. He was having a really good time at the NAMM show. Super cool guy. But what else? Like I've seen some of Leo from Frog Leap Studios. He's got baritone Squire, you know, so you could look at some of the Fenders and stuff like that that's kind of lower priced, and he gets great sounds out of those things. So look at a baritone guitar, or if you want a 27-inch scale neck, I would look at, you know, you want to build something, or maybe put on, I don't know how that translates, like if you can just smack a neck like that on an existing Strat or something, or Telly, and then adjust the intonation and stuff, and that just works. Something to talk to a tech about. But I would assume that Warmoth and maybe Musicraft, which is spelled with a K, music, Kraft, like the macaroni and cheese, all one word, Musicraft. Look at those companies and see if they make something, you know, in a longer scale. Big Boss says, I think stainless steel frets sound different. How about you, Pete? Well, there's a thing to them that you know, I've got them on my signature guitar. I'll put it this way: on a guitar that comes with them, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. You know, I love the feel, love everything about it. So if you get an existing guitar or something built, you know, certainly a Suhr, or, you know, like I say, my EVH or guitars, it's just, they sound great and they feel good, and it's a no-brainer. Put them on a guitar that you've already got, and I did that once and I kind of regretted it, which was a Les Paul. I refretted it with stainless, and the guitar, it just sort of, I don't know, there was something about it where I don't even know if I could hear it in an amp, but I could hear it acoustically. There was this little ping, right? But the fret sounds a little different than, and I guess it makes sense. I mean, you're making contact with the fret, and it's a component on the guitar that, you know, and you hit the string, and there's a thing going on there. And there was just this little ping that I noticed on the Les Paul. So on Les Pauls, I know that maybe it's just superstition, but I like nickel, traditional nickel steel frets or whatever. And on a vintage guitar, if I was going to refret, I would use regular nickel steel style fret wire. My new guitars that are Strat scale, you know, 25.5-inch scale, whatever, Fender style scale, you know, I have no qualms about using stainless steel frets on those. It doesn't bother me in the slightest on those. Edgar says, hello, I like your advices. It's so useful. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thanks, Edgar, for being here. Where are you from? Are you from Bolivia? Bolivia is a country I've never been to. And I would love to go to Bolivia and check it out. I've seen the Anthony Bourdain from Bolivia was really cool. The Parts Unknown looks like a beautiful country. I'd love to visit sometime. Thanks for saying hi, Edgar, and hope to see you here again. Let's see here. You ever play Eventide rack harmonizer units like Tim and Michael Thompson? Only a little bit. I've never owned one, but I've gotten to play through them. I mean, I got to play Michael's actually at his place. They're special, you know. I love Michael's how he does the, you know, modulated delay with them and stuff. It's really great. And the H3000 thing, you know, it's such a classic, you know, with the detune on each side. But I do find that, and even I was talking about this with John Shanks yesterday at the NAMM show. He uses he likes the H9, you know, the H3000 sounds in it and stuff. And he's a real tone connoisseur, aficionado. He sounded great yesterday. We did this UA panel, and he brought a 62. Of course, I brought nothing, and I plugged in whatever I could that was there. And he brings a 62 ES345, his own pedal board, and a 2-rock amp. So, but that's John. He's a great guitar player, and plays, you know, really beautifully. Got his own thing going on. That's kind of, he said it best yesterday, almost sort of a Nashville approach. Plays chords with a lot of kind of dragging the notes out with some beautiful, like, kind of close voicings, and he arpeggiates things, and you know, close interval kind of stuff when he's playing leads and stuff that just has this beautiful, I don't know, it's tasty is what it is. Really great guitar player. He's, of course, Bon Jovi producer, and plays guitar in Bon Jovi now as well, along with Phil. And he talked about a little bit at the panel we did yesterday about the difference between him and Phil, and how that works in a 2-guitar band, which I thought was really cool. And I tried to sort of simulate what Phil would do, you know, playing more, maybe a little dirtier, a little harder, a little more like, you know, rock thing, while John was doing his sort of more, you know, like I say, like a bit fuller voicings, maybe ninths and things like that, and cleaner tone with a little bit of echo, and how those two things can blend well together in a 2-guitar band. Let's see. Have you seen any new pedal boards that are good, or loop switchers? That's from Brexall. The mono pedal boards look really cool for a simple pedal board design. They had some stuff at NAMM, just simple folded kind of aluminum looking boards that look really nice, lightweight. And I like what I've seen too in the last year from the Warwick Rock. Oh God, now I'm forgetting. It sucks. Rock board must be, I think. And they've got some neat kind of interfaces that they do on their pedal boards. The Warwick people do, where you can have like XLRs and 1/4 inch inputs on a patch bay, or maybe just 1/4 inch, or MIDI and XLR, and like so. It depends on whether they're basically making pedal boards that can be configured for whatever your needs are. Maybe if you do acoustic and electric with your pedal board, you might want to XLR out for DI or something, and you can have that on there. And so check out the Rockboard stuff and the interface boxes they make for different situations. They're pretty cool. Still got 480 people online. That's awesome. Thanks for joining me here today, you guys. It's about 106. I'll do kind of a longish one today. I might as well go for another 15 or so. Let's see. Everyone will want to hear a shootout between a UA aux and the Roland Waza box. Which one sounds the best? I guess live and into the DAW. Sorry. Cough. God. You know, my guess is you could dial them both in to sound great. I haven't tried the Roland yet. I know that it probably sounds really good from other folks that I've heard that I trust that have said it's cool. With its post effects built in and its power, it kind of does some different things. I mean, it's got it in, so it's got a little bit of, akin to like the, power station from Fryat, except the reamp is of course solid state, probably kind of Waza tube amp, I would assume. I want to try it and see. My thing with reamps has been I like tube amps, so that's why I like the power station. The tube amp, kind of flattish 6L6 50 watt. It just sounds and feels like you're still plugged into the cab with the amp connected directly, even though it's being loaded down. You're using the other. Something about the dampening with the tube amp connected. So I want to see what happens with the Roland one with that and how I feel about the tone. But there's all these other great things about it. Of course, there's all these 16 different reactive loads in it, so you can simulate different types of speaker cabinets with different impedance curves. So that's interesting to me, but as well as the post effects, in it. But the aux kind of does that stuff. So to me, the aux is a little more. Actually, it's not geared towards just recording because it's got the They're going at it from like, attenuation to keep the amp volume lower, traditional kind of passive attenuation, and then having the integrated app and that kind of stuff. For your cabinet sounds to go to front of house, but it's not really made to the aux isn't really made to do like MIDI switching of cabinets and things like that, which I think the Roland box does. So you could have like different presets and be switching, via MIDI. It might be a little more of a live thing, friendly thing. It just depends. I mean, it depends what your needs are and what you're doing. I mean, the aux is brilliant, and this Roland thing looks pretty brilliant too. So we started talking about the quality of the sounds, though. My guess is that for any given tone, you could dial them both in to sound pretty great. I mean, the effects in the aux are stellar. So the delay and the reverb, the plate verb, and simple 1176. Probably more effect options in the Roland is my guess. But anyway, okay. Moving down. Any suggestions for when you hit a plateau in your guitar playing? That's from Stealth Parrot. You just need a little new inspiration, maybe. I really like, for quick inspiration, YouTube videos are great, but if you can't find anything there, go to Jam Track Central and download some of my favorites have been the Mateus Asado lesson or the Laurie Basilio lessons. Laurie's got one on finger style soloing and stuff. So she just plays with her thumb and finger and does, she's got these cool licks. give that a try. I bet that's probably something you maybe haven't tried, you know, and like just her, even just picking up a couple licks that way and getting into the way that she plays so dynamically and with this cool phrasing and stuff. Even if you do it with a pick, you don't even have to copy or picking thing, just her note choices and stuff. Check out her lesson. That's a good rut buster to me. Or maybe sign up for the Tim Pierce studio guitar course, which is, you know, his master class, which I want to do and I haven't done yet. And it's just, I just know there's hundreds of videos, wealth of information. I'm going to sit down and learn some stuff from Tim. So those would be good rut busters. Rich Monks is up in the top chat. Thanks, Rich. He says, ever hear this sounds like an interesting recommendation. Marissa Pate Moster with the trio Screaming Females, ferocious Billy Corgan inspired leads, and a killer singer-songwriter. Thanks for all your demos, questions, and Q&As. Thanks, Rich. Thanks for being on the top chat as well. I have not heard that music, and I got to make a note. Marissa from the Screaming Females. I'll go listen to it after the show. That sounds cool. Loved it. I like new music recommendations. Moving down a little bit. Thanks, Pete, for sharing knowledge. Thank you, Camilio. That's Camilio. He says, I've learned so much from your channel. I thought I was never buying a signature amp, but the Suhr PT15 is just revolutionary. Thanks, man. Well, you know, the thing that I think sets apart my signature products from being a little different from maybe some others is that the only thing that I'm really trying to do is make stuff for working guys like everybody out there, you know, that's it. Or people at home, or certain signature products, you know, if a player is a real stylist, it's a famous guitar player or something like that, they're in a band, and you're going to get their signature guitar and it's going to be exactly what they play, the way that they like it. But maybe it's not the most versatile instrument or something like that. I think the thing that we try and do, at least with my thing with Suhr and the amps and stuff, is we're trying to solve problems. Okay, what about the type of because these are situations I find myself in, because I'm not a guitar player that's in like a, you know, I'm not some rock star guitar player that's in a big famous band that does exactly what I want with a full crew behind me to always do. You know, I'm a guy that finds myself like with no crew and has to go to the gig and plug in and go, okay, you gotta, we're only using in-ears, and this is that kind of dictated, you know, the as most of you guys out there, you know, I talked to people at NAMM that said the amp's perfect, because I did a gig the other day at a casino and they said, quiet stage, we can't have any cabs. And I was like, what do I do with my amp, you know? And he said, you know, this amp would have been perfect for what I had to deal with. Things like that. I got to deal with those same issues too. So that's the thing, is I'm a problem solver for working musicians, I feel like, because that's all I am, a working musician. I'm just trying to find the best ways to get amazing guitar sounds in a small package, reasonably lightweight, that sounds amazing. That's what we've been trying to do with this new amp anyway. And just make everybody's job easier, you know. Have you checked out Elite acoustic amps? I have not seen those. I heard these Fender acoustic amps, though, that they had at the Fender booth with the new Acoustasonic Telecaster. Those sounded nice. They're little acoustic combos. They sounded really cool. Fretwire on Fire said, just jumped in. So if that's already, sorry, but at the Chris Cornell tribute, did Miley sound as amazing live as she did in the clips on YouTube? Miley was unbelievable. I'd never met her before, you know, 2 hours before I played with her. And she walked up on stage and was super sweet and nice and said, oh man, I was excited. I heard you were going to be here and play with me. And I was really happy about that. I said, thank you. You know, and I said, this is going to be fun. And she just said, okay. And she said, okay, let's do this. And she didn't even hear, like, you know, got a little bit in the monitor. I got a guitar in the monitor, just wedges, no in-ears, nothing like that. She didn't even ask for anything, which most singers, can I get more in myself? Can I get more of this? How much you want to hear guitar? She didn't ask for shit. She just like went up and said, okay, well, let's give it a shot. And I just came in with the first lick of the song, dang, gang, gang, gling, strummed the first chord, and she came in perfectly in tune, sang the whole song down, and then said, let me listen to the bridge once after. And she got it on her phone and listened to it. Actually, there's a picture of me on my Instagram that I put up from Soundcheck, and that's what she's doing in the picture. If you look at my IG, and she's on the floor and she's talking to me and looking up and going like this. She's listening to the song on her phone and saying like, well, in the bridge, he kind of like riffs around and she's like, should I just kind of do my own thing there, do you think? Like, and I go, yeah, it's totally just, it's blues, you know, just, and she's like, okay, I'm just going to do that. Cool. And then we played it once. She goes, one more time just for me. And I said, sure. And I sang it she sang it top to bottom one more time. We played it through and she's like, okay, great. I'll see you at the show. And we got up on stage after that. And when it was time, it was funny because she was late. They announced her and I was like, she wasn't coming out on stage. I was like, damn, where is she? And I thought, I got to get out there and get my guitar plugged in and get ready or there's going to be this lull. So I ran out, plugged into the DI, and then she came coming behind me. I could hear, I'm here. She came behind me. And she grabbed the mic and kind of, you know, as you saw maybe on the YouTube, if you watched it, she just said, wow, I fucking wish I was out there in the crowd or something. She said something like that. You know, I wish I could watch the show from out there. This is crazy. Because it was crazy, all those performers at one show. And then she looked at me and once again, she goes, okay, let's do this, you know? And I said, I came in and she sang a beautiful version of that song. Never oversang, perfectly dynamic, you know, and impeccable intonation and the right vibe. You know, she just kind of nailed it. And afterwards, she walked off, you know, and I was right behind her. She leaned back to me and she goes, they like us. They thought it was cool. I said, you know, I thought this was going to be good. That's what I said to her. I go, I had a feeling, because I'd never met her, but I said, I had a feeling this was going to be really cool. And it was. It went off just like I thought it was going to. She goes, I know, me too. It was cool. So then she gave me a big hug when she left and said, see ya. That was awesome. It was great. You know, she was a pleasure. So it was a hard night for me, you know. It was like a bittersweet. My vibe, I might have said last week, but it was you know, this is what we're all supposed to be doing. It's healing and that kind of thing. But my vibe was that, like, I wish none of this was going on. Of course, you know, I wish the show wasn't necessary, you know. So I wish your friend's still there, right? Anyway, but it was a good thing that we went and did it. Soldano didn't go either for the reason you just specified. Is CG asking about NAMM? Jerry Hope says, my company did an exhibit at NAMM first time in 40 years and CG go either. Actually, Soldano was there. He was in the boutique amps booth, because now he's under the boutique amps umbrella, along with, you know, Diesel and Friedman, Bogner, you know, a bunch of companies, which I think is great. And he said to me exactly what I thought, which he goes, now I can just design. I can just do what I do, which is design. That was always my dream. You know, all the other stuff wasn't what he wanted to deal with. He's a very nice guy. This first time I met him. I took a little video with him and Bruce Egnater standing there talking, and just kind of, you know, got a little bit of it. Hopefully you can hear it. It was crazy in the booth and noisy, but I'll edit this video pretty soon here. So put it up so you guys can see my kind of NAMM wrap up. But anyway, Mike was very gracious and nice. Just to talk to him for a couple of minutes, and you know, he's got a lot. He has the respect of everybody, from Friedman to, you know, John Suhr to all the Mike. Mike was a pioneer of boutique amps. Really, he even came out almost before anybody, I guess. I mean, 87 or 88, right? The SLO. I remember do you get anybody out there remember when the SLO came out in I don't know, it was Guitar Player magazine, or I think it was Guitar World. And there was an Andy Brower review of it with a photo of it. And Andy was talking about how it's kind of like an old Marshall, but modded and more high gain, had its own thing going on. And he was like, this is a brilliant sounding amplifier. And I was like, oh man, that looks like. And then you started seeing him on stage with Eric Clapton. And then he was making one for Stevie Ray Vaughan. That's maybe something not everybody out there knows, but Stevie Ray Vaughan had an SLO on order. And then he passed away. So in 1990, he was going to get one, which would have been real interesting, right? Stevie Ray Vaughan with that amp, like, who knows what that would have sounded like, but could have been cool. Anyway, so he's now got a SLO 30 that he's doing, 30 watt, a little bit different than the Hot Rod 25, you know, SLO 30, so small. I kind of want to get one. I mean, it's like, I've never had an SLO, and it's like, maybe I should get one. Seems like something you know, kind of different, and I don't know, just he's legendary high gain amp for sure. Let's see. Question about using Kempers as an amp for your pedals. How do you get the Kemper to take pedals like a real amp? Hasn't sounded authentic to me yet. And that's Zachary. Well, it could be anything, Zach. It's like, you know, could be the, you know, impedance of the input or something of the Kemper, but also I don't know if it's designed to, like, does the Kemper really respond like an amplifier, like a tube circuit would if you're, going, or is it just kind of a static, thing that's not gonna, if you kick it in the front end, will it respond the same way as a tube amp? I don't really know, It's a good question. Maybe talk amongst yourselves. There's some Kemper people out there that have a perspective on that. I've got my Kemper here, actually. Should plug it in and fire it up and experiment with pedals. Share an experience about a guitar you used to own that you wanted to love but just couldn't get the vibe with it. Or you just keep and love everything. That's from Patrick. Okay, well, I got a couple. The one that really got away was I had a 54 Les Paul Gold Top. It was refinned at some point, probably in the 70s, but it was a good refin, just the top. And the gold was already starting to, look old and checking green and all that stuff. So it was done right with lacquer, and it also had a headstock repair. So it had a headstock crack. So that made the guitar affordable. I bought that guitar for $2,000, 54 Les Paul Gold Top, $2,000. Yes, it had a headstock repair and the top was refinned, but it looked great. All the other parts were original, and I sold that guitar. The reason I sold that guitar was because it had a rattle in the neck. The truss rod was rattling. It was become loose somewhere. So I'd hit certain notes and it would do that, and it drove me crazy. I was young and dumb, and I sold it. And I've told John that story, Suhr, because, dude, I could have fixed that in 5 minutes. It's like, that's not a big deal. He knew that was a common problem that some of them would do, which just hurt my soul when I heard that. It's like, oh God. Never should have sold that guitar. But anyway, that's kind of the one that got away, that I had that issue with, and then I sold it. Now I know, it's certainly with vintage guitars, if you got one that's pretty much perfect, even if there's a few problems with it, don't sell it, because you end up regretting it, because it's hard to get them again for those prices. Now they've come down. The time I bought mine, it was cheap and all that, but then they shot way up by, 15 years later, all of a sudden, a good 54 Gold Top, and unmolested, it'd be $50K, close to it, if not, now I kind of routinely see them for 20 to 30, 1995, so I've seen them for, look pretty good looking ones for even just a little under 20 grand. So still a huge chunk of money for a guitar. So I don't know. Maybe someday I'll find that guitar again. I have dreams of finding that guitar again. Remember the guy, I shipped it to him, and he had an issue with something. It pisses me off now when I think about it, because he had an issue with like the case or something. And he goes, well, this isn't exactly what you said. Can you send me $100 or, and I think I agreed, like, well, okay, I want you to be happy. So, and then I don't remember what happened. But when I think about it now, it's just like, dude, I sold it for $2,600. Like, I'd made money. I thought, oh, I got my money out of the guitar plus another $500 or $600. It's just like, I sold a 50s Les Paul for, this is in 90. I think I bought it in 92, 93, and I sold it around 95 a few years later. And that is the one guitar that was just the stupidest thing I ever did as far as buying a guitar and selling it. Just a 50s Les Paul. Come on, even if I'd stripped it and done a, burst, conversion or something, you can't buy them for like even stripped ones. I've seen, there's a guy in Canada that had 2 stripped ones, early 50s, like either 52 or 53, and they were stripped down to the wood, and he was gonna eventually have them done into bursts. And I tried to buy one of those guitars from him for years. Just sell me just the old wood, that's all and he was like, I'm still holding on to him. And this poor guy, he passed away eventually. He was a great guy. And the guitars ended up getting sold because I wasn't there, it's like they were up in Canada. And I just missed out on getting one, but I wanted to get, one of those and then maybe do burst conversion or something. But now, to be honest, I'm kind of over it. I've got the Aaron satisfies my burst lust. So, I've got that one, but, okay, I'm probably going to go pretty soon, dudes, but, see, Gibson didn't show up to NAMM last year, and it created a big buzz. I think in combination, when a company was having business troubles and money problems and stuff, and then they don't show up, that's when they're in trouble. But Mesa doesn't go. They haven't been there for a long time. There's other companies that don't go to NAMM. It doesn't, like I say, it's not always a sign of business problems. It can be a sign of things are great, and you got too many sales. And it's like, why are we going to go this year? We can't even deal with the orders we've got. We got to fill all these orders before we go again. So. James is saying, did you get to see Led Zepp at O2 Arena in 2007? No, I didn't. I wish, man. My sorry, guys. My buddy Ross Halfin, amazing rock photographer. He was the only photographer that was allowed to photograph that show, and we all watched it. I watched some of it with Chris. I remember, you know, watching it in rehearsal. As I remember, like we found video of it. And, well, you know, it was a great show. I thought it was really cool. They should have done more. Should have just done 10 dates or something. Because now who knows, you know, will they ever get together and do it again? I don't know. There's part of me that doesn't care either. It's like the whole Led Zeppelin. I love Led Zeppelin, don't get me wrong, but it's like what I really would love is for Jimmy Page to just make a new band. You know, it doesn't have to be Led Zeppelin. It's like Led Zeppelin's great, but give me a break. Like, here was my idea. I've told to a bunch of people. Jimmy Page gets together with Ann and Nancy Wilson and John Paul Jones and another drummer and maybe a keyboard player, and they make a new band. You can call it whatever, you know, and you can play songs from Heart and you can play Led Zeppelin songs, because we all know Ann Wilson can sing the shit out of Led Zeppelin songs. So imagine that, just make a new band with Jimmy Page as the guitar. Who wouldn't want to see that? It was like when he did Black Crowes. That was cool. It's like, just get out and play, man. Like, get out there and do it, and people will come. You don't even have to try that hard, you know. So I thought a band with the Wilsons would be amazing, because they have there's a chemistry that they have a real appreciation for Led Zeppelin music, and they could play that music. Heart's classic stuff too. You could play Heart songs and write an album of new music. I would love to see that. But anyway, somebody's asking me if I play keyboards from Poland and Czechoslovakia. No, sir, I don't. Actually, I wish I did. I'd love to buy a piano and take piano lessons. I have a dream of that someday. Let's see. Your plan is to use both the PT amps on the same stage, says Pedro. No, I would probably just pick one or the other. My PTs are, you know, my main touring gig's been working in Japan for the last while, and last few years, 2 amps that are over there now, 2 PT100s. So just because of economy and stuff like that, whether or not we'll see if I can tour with the new ones. You never know. I mean, maybe it might be cool. It'd be kind of ridiculous for our stage. Like, I don't know if they'd let me get away with having all those amps on stage. If I had two 15s and 200s and blended them or something. But I'd love to try the 15s actually with Yoshi and just see if like 2 of them, I think with 2 cabs, I'd probably have enough volume, because I don't play I play kind of loud on stage with him, but it's not like super loud. I'm running the masters on 2.5 or something like that on the back, with the other ones up around 4 or 5 on the front. It's a little, you know, it's possible 15 watts might be enough. 2 15-watt amps, you know, because you can always get more in the monitors too. We've got like loud ass side fills with Yoshi. Loud, you know, everybody's got wedges. There's full on side fills. Everybody's on in-ears. It's a full on crazy monitor rig. Yeah. NAMM doesn't make sense with social media and being able to demo stuff on YouTube, says B.A. Mozzie. Yeah, I see sort of what you mean. You mean, like, why go when you can just do the YouTube? I think a lot of people feel that way. You know, I heard a guy from a big company the other day say, is everybody ready for the colossal waste of time, money, and resources that is NAMM? You know, and there's definitely an argument there, you know, where it's just like, now with the internet and the way that things are, it's like, why do we all it's really fun. That's the best part, going to see people and stuff like that. But economically, does it make sense? Like, for a lot of companies, sometimes no, you know. But sure, it's fun. Okay. Let's see here. Page's mirror telly is hideous, says On the Road. Wasn't it like the original one that he did though? Like he came out with a new telly, right? At the show. I think it was like he had, that was the guitar, the Led Zeppelin 1 and 2. Oh, did you guys see the Mitch Colby Park amps? He did the I can't remember, I'm not gonna remember the name of it now, but the Supro design, you know, he actually recreated it with Jimmy, and you know, did a signed, you know, custom. I think it's 100 amps or something. Maybe it's 50 amps, 50 or 100, can't remember. But they all sold at the show, and they're expensive. But I mean, Mitch is great, and he designs amps like crazy. Those, you know, those Park amps he's done is so cool. But let's see here. I get off on tangents. I lost my place in the chat, so I'm just going to back up a bit here, and then I should run pretty soon. God, I've been going 2.5 hours. I don't know. I'm just having fun talking guitar. I need another cup of coffee though. Let's see here. Dr. Gordon Freeman says paying more for vintage shows how gullible people are. Well, guitar, vintage guitars are like art. It's kind of money in the bank. I mean, yes, you can lose money if the market goes down. We'll see what happens, whether the bottom falls out of the whole vintage thing as older guys, are out of the picture and it's all millennials or whatever. And then will people care as much? My feel on it is that with vintage guitars is that the real unmolested ones and the great players will always retain some value. The ones like mine, my 52 with the cracked headstock and all that stuff, they're going to come down a lot, and they already, they're already good deals. So it's like the kind of the ones that would go in the Smithsonian as classic American art, like the coolest old guitars, if they're unmolested and they're real great examples, they're always going to retain value. The market might shrink a little bit for folks that'll pay for them, but the best ones will stay. And paying more for vintage shows how gullible people are. I don't really agree with that. I mean, to be honest, the best vintage guitars, I mean, my vintage guitars have tones that I can't really get out of some of the new ones, to be honest. Like the Strat and stuff, the neck pickups, it's just like, oh God, there it is. You play it and it's got this magic fluty neck pickup tone that just does that thing. And it's so easy. You just plug it and you can hear it acoustically. There's something about the way the guitar resonates, it's just, I don't know. It's a thing. And my 335 is a deadly sounding guitar, the pickup, whatever. The neck pickup doesn't sound that great in that guitar. That's what I think. It's a middle position is okay. Bridge position is ferocious. It sounds just super cool. And I don't mean ferocious in a super hot way, because it's not. It's actually kind of low output, but it just sounds great. There's something to vintage guitars. Give Pete a lozenge, says John. Yeah, I need one, right? Actually not. It's mostly NAMM burnout. It's not illness. And I'm coughing a bit, but that's just residual from a cold that I had. I don't feel that sick or anything like that. I'm not really anymore, I don't think. Yeah. George says, Pete, did you know that when you visited Guitar in Epsom that Jimmy Page's childhood home was nearby? I didn't know that. Epsom was a beautiful little town. It's really cool around there. But no, I didn't know that. That's interesting. I want to go back to UK. I want to spend more time there. I mean, that's where my family it's my lineage of Scotland, England. I wish I'd love to stay there for a while, hang out for a few months. It's a cool place. I wish I'd spend as much time in the UK as I have in France and in Japan, which is, a lot more. Let's see here. Michael's saying, how do people contribute to your channel? People contribute in different, mainly it's just if you mean on this thing, it's the top chat thing. Folks can, sometimes they'll send you $1 or they'll send you $20. It's like, and I don't ask for it, but it is a feature that's on there that is a thing that you could do. People just do. They just started doing it when they introduced the feature, and of course I appreciate that. It's too kind, but it's far from expected. That's for sure. I'm just here to hang out. And yeah, that's the main way. With YouTube channels, I think with this new top chat thing, I've got merch too. I'd be remiss if I didn't. We did the the t-shirt design that I did for the Pledge Music campaign. We've now offered that on my YouTube videos. There's like a store below where you can get merch, t-shirts and stuff, and coffee mugs too if you want to. I don't have mine here yet, but I've ordered one of my own coffee mugs, and it's going to come soon, I hope, and then I can drink coffee with my own mug, if that's not too pretentious. I just thought it'd be funny. But yeah, so there's a merch store. It's also on my website. There's a link for t-shirts, hoodies, women's t-shirts, all that good stuff. Have you ever played through Copper Sound Foxcatcher? No, but I stopped by the Copper Sound booth the other day. I did demo for them. It was the chorus pedal, I think, the Polaris, right? great sounding pedal. And they said they'd like to do some more stuff with me, so I hope we do that. George says he loves Vintage Heart. I agree, it's good stuff. Going all the way to the end of the chat. I'm just going to finish up with a few more here, and then I'm gonna split. Let's see here. Leo got put in timeout because he said shitty, but that's okay. You can say shitty. Leo said expensive food in the UK, and it's expensive and it's shitty. There's some great food in the UK. Indian food, right? In the UK is exceptional, and there's great Thai food in the UK. You know, they're just not known for their English food. They're bangers and mash. But come on, a Sunday roast. I still love that. You know, good Sunday roast with some Yorkshire pudding. I wish I could still. I don't eat gluten anymore. And Yorkshire pudding and gravy, and come on, I need that in my life, but I can't have it. I just grew up that way. Like I say, I grew up, you know, with the hardcore. You know, my granddad was in the RAF. My granddad was in the. He was born in 1895, and he lied about his age to get into the military so he could fight in World War I. And he was actually shot in World War I and survived. That's why I'm still here. Why I'm here. But yeah, and he lived till the ripe old age of 90. He died in the mid 80s. And my grandmother, who was also she was actually born in Canada, but very British parents and everything like that. She lived till she was almost 100. And my whole family, you know, going way back is English Scottish. So let's see. Miguel says Rev kind of copied your amp with 2 notes. I saw that they have an amp. I don't really think they copied it. I just think it's the way that it's going, you know. I think technically, you know, because I made a big deal about ours being the first. They also brought out an amp, but I think technically ours, so I'm still going to say it was the first. Yeah, we hit first with the, but their amp looked interesting. It's a very different amp in that it's 1 channel. And it's kind of lunchbox size. So it's a different, slightly, yes, so there's some similar features there, which means there's a load and there's 6 IRs that you can select on a knob. I'm not sure if you can change the IRs or not, probably. But yeah, 2 notes, Rev, they've got we're going to see more of these, you know, it's going to be more of these coming out. So, Joel says, Dr. Gordon Freeman, he says it's also a 3-channel amp. Oh, is somebody talking about the cost of my amp or something like that? I'm not sure. There was a little bit of talk about the cost of the PT100 and stuff that I saw online about it being, folks thought it was expensive because it's $26.99. I don't exactly know the price that it's settled on, but $2,600 to $26.99. That's what they've talked about. So let me just address it for a second, and then I'm going to split. A Badger street price is $1,750. It's been an amp that's out for a long time now. Well, it's made in California. That's a pretty reasonable price for a boutique amp with a 1-channel amp, Badger 18 watts, $1,750. Right now, what if we were to make a 3-channel Badger amp? Right, you put some R&D in. There's a lot more parts in it. Foot switch comes with it. All that stuff. What would you charge for that? What would seem fair for a 3-channel version of the same amp? $21.95, something like that, right? You know, for a new version of the amp. Now, with it include a headphone amp. Let's add another $100, $200 to the, you know, so now we're at 22, 23 for a headphone amp as well as a line in, and a load and an IR board with the, you know, full on Suhr reactive load IRs. You just got to do the math. I mean, the Suhr reactive load, this is an exact miniaturized version of the reactive load, part for part, everything. Just Kevin Suhr figured out how to make this one into a very small compact box that would fit in the head. So that's $599 with an IR loader, right? Suhr reactive load sitting right there, $599. So you just consider that. We've made the amp 3 channels, more parts, all the R&D that went into getting all that stuff to fit into that amplifier. How do you hook it all up? How do you make it all work? And we're at, you know, $26.99, somewhere in there. It's just what it costs. You know, if you look at a Badger, so it's less than a PT100. A PT100 is $29.95. So this is a few $100s less than that. And a lot of people think, yeah, but it's only 15 watts. Wattage has nothing to do with price. The only thing you're talking about there is a couple of tubes and tube sockets. And John Suhr will tell you that all day long. Like it's still, it's a 3-channel preamp. It's a power amp. You need the output transformer. You need the power transformer. You need all that same stuff in an amplifier, whether it's 15 watts or 100 watts. So yes, it'd be a little bit more expensive for the 100-watt version, but that's a fallacy. Like whatever people have been charging all the way along for like a 50-watt version, 100 watts. The 50 watts a little bit cheaper. You're talking about the cost of 2 tubes and a couple of tube sockets, a couple other parts. It's next to nothing. So the cost comes, when you start talking about reactive load, IR loader, all this kind of stuff. And so I think it's really, really fair. I mean, if you add up what a boutique tube head would cost, and then you add $600 on to buy a Suhr reactive load, and then you got things in 2 different boxes. This is putting it all in one box with a headphone amp. I think it's a pretty fair price. Steve's up in the top chat. Steve didn't ask a question or anything like that, but he did the top chat thing, and I really appreciate that, my friend. Thank you so much. You're too kind. You guys, this has been great. Thanks to my buddy Dennis Martin for being here at the beginning. He's been a good pal to me, as well as my employer over in Japan. He's the one that hired me to go over there, so I'm glad he was here today. You guys can meet him. He's a great guy, great music producer. And just a couple last questions. Pete, any advice on how to find a great early 60s ES335, 345 other than eBay or Reverb? I would check some of the great, kind of classic vintage stores around the country. Emerald City Guitar in Seattle, really, really nice store, and they do a lot of stuff on Instagram. You could contact them, maybe Norm's. Norm's seems to have, Tim Pierce bought a really beautiful 335 recently from Norm's and got a great deal on it. A couple parts have been changed and stuff, so it's a great player. So, Emerald City Guitar, Kansas City Guitar is another one I've seen around quite a bit. Look at some of these resources, I would say. And see if one of these dealers could point you. And you can let them know, like, hey, I'm looking for one of these guitars, and if something comes through, let me know, and they'll keep you on file and that kind of thing. They'll give you a call if they get something or get a line on something. So that's a good way to go. And all right, I'm gonna wrap it up. I think that's it. But thanks, guys. Thanks for all your support and being awesome. Being here every week, really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week. Gonna do some demos for, I don't know, what do I got coming? I got some good stuff coming this week. I'm really overdue to do some demos for some radial products. They've got some neat amp switchers, as well as kind of ways to integrate effects with 2 amplifiers. If you got an effects loop and 2 amps and you want to switch between them and stuff like that. So anyway, got some of that stuff coming. Gonna do my NAMM wrap-up video this week as well. What's it? Oh yeah, Amps in the Zone, Vox. I got to get to that. So that's the next thing. I've said it. I'm going to do that forever. I got a great AC30 at my disposal here, as well as a divided by 13 RSA 31 and my Vox AC15. So I got a new version of the AC30 circuit with the AC15 hand wired. Got the RSA Boutique, and then I got an old AC30 here. And we're going to kind of crank all those up and try and get some great sounds, record it. And so that'll be a video that I'm looking forward to making a lot. Thank you, guys. Please hit the thumbs up if you haven't, and subscribe if you haven't. Share the video and stuff. And thanks once again for all your support. And you guys are the best. All right. Have a great week. See ya.